Quickly into space, Concepcion, blockers in front, and here he goes. KC says TD.
This is 365 Sports.
Final 30 seconds of the quarter. Second down throw to the end zone. Douglas. Touchdown, Texas Tech. What a drive.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Sorsby the key with a cut. Broken ankles. See ya.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Another first down for Vandy. Pressure off the edge. He steps up, and now he's going to run for the end zone and score. Diego Pavia.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Brown takes another shot. Wide open Koger. Touchdown, South Florida. 63 yards.
Now here's David Smoak.
And Garrett Ross and Andrew Valade, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the Christmas break. David Smoak with you flying solo today. Garrett and Andrew are here in the studio as well, and we'll take you over the next 2 or 3 hours with so many stories, looking back at some of the college football games, looking ahead to this week with the quarterfinal round. A lot of news when it comes to Baylor, stirring up all sorts of emotions when it comes to signing the young man that was drafted 3 years ago, and Scott Drew's reaction, and even his reaction in a conversation with Michigan State head coach Tom Izzo. All of that and a lot more. Official now with Kyle Whittingham at Michigan. Morgan Stanley fully entrenched as the head coach at Utah. That was kind of weird the way that went down. And then some other news, too. How about Georgia Tech and BYU? How about North Texas? And the good of what year they had and the bad of their team is being shredded by opt-outs and also the portal. And then on top of that, the fun parts of bowls, the Pop-Tarts Bowl, BYU and Georgia Tech. Let's get to it because Garrett Ross, is good to see you again, sir.
Good to see you.
And Andrew Valade, he will not have a microphone on. We need to get him one of those wireless mics that we can hear from him. He probably would not say very much, or at least not in front of me. He would not. But look, Merry Christmas. Hope you had a great break, and Happy New Year coming up this week. We will be on today. Craig will join me tomorrow. And then we haven't yet decided what we'll do on Friday, but we need to do something because we'll have games done. The quarterfinal round games will be finished, and so we'll do what we can do on Friday. But let's get straight to it. These are two pictures of viewers, Bracket Cat, and a 365 Sports hat. This is part of the merchandise. This is part of the merchandise store that we have on 365 Sports under Rogue Media Network. There he is. And then also S. Michael DeHart, West Virginia great, Mountaineer, both of them wearing caps. Kim Coulter, not a surprise. We know how giving and caring he is. He did all the super chats last week for the guys like Andrew and Garrett and Brandon and Logan. He sent caps out, the 365 Sports caps. I ordered a couple of them, ordered a couple of shirts too. Have not received mine, but it hadn't been very long since I did. So good-looking hats, good-looking dudes. Appreciate you. And he wasn't those aren't the only two, but those are the two that I got a picture from. Also, here is the schedule coming up this week. The college football playoff quarterfinals, and you have the Ohio State game with Miami. You have Oregon and Texas Tech. That game is on January 1st. Miami and Ohio State at the Cotton Bowl, New Year's Eve. Then you have Texas Tech, and they've been sitting back and getting a little bit, maybe some of the bumps and bruises healed, hopefully staying sharp. And Oregon coming off their route of James Madison. Then, of course, down below, you have Indiana and Alabama out in the Rose Bowl later on in the afternoon. And then at night, two SEC teams in Ole Miss and Georgia. They played earlier this year. They will launch the last part of the 4 quarterfinal round games coming up, the college football playoffs, is good. I think the distance in between games, at times I get a little bit nervous about a little bit of a delay, but I think you're going to see 8 teams. I don't know. One of them might blow open and be 40-17. I don't know. But I think that the distance between who played in the first round and them playing the next game is pretty good. I don't know about the long, late wait, although you do like to have the bye to move into the quarterfinals.
I think for me, looking at that, I think that you have, I think you're going to have a good close-up matchups between Texas Tech and Oregon. I think that's one I'm intrigued to look at because I don't think either team is really, outside of Oregon being tested early on by Indiana, they haven't really been tested again. Texas Tech, I don't think they've truly been tested this season. They've clearly had a clear advantage in the trenches in every game they've played, so I'm interested to see that one. I think Ohio State does blow out Miami. I'm not sold that Miami could truly compete with Ohio State. But then again, we don't really know how good Ohio State is either because outside of the game earlier on when they beat Texas in the Indiana game, those are really their only true tests. And I think both Texas and Indiana are better than Miami, in my opinion, even though Texas didn't make the playoff. Alabama, Indiana, I think that's going to be a really close game. And then Georgia, I think Georgia works Ole Miss. I don't really think Ole Miss can compete with them that much. With all the turnover and everything, I think that's one where you see the dogs kind of walk on them. But I think we got some pretty good matchups here regardless.
Well, Ohio State is a 9.5. It all depends. And they get a half a point or a point, but a 9.5 point pick last I looked against Miami. Oregon is a 2.5 point favorite against Texas Tech. Indiana, a 7 point touchdown pick to win their game against Bama. And then Georgia's a 6 point favorite to beat Ole Miss in that rematch. So there we are, the 4 games. Let's get to them, and we will when they play Wednesday and Thursday of this week. Now, there's a lot of coaching news, a lot of like assistant coaches. We'll get to Penn State has found their defensive coordinator for Matt Campbell. We'll have that. News on Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman. But the big story that like lingered, and it was always kind of awkward the way Kyle Whittingham was on his way out. And Morgan Scalley, of course, man in waiting, right? Head coach in waiting. Those things don't always work that way. But I never really thought that went well, but I'm not up there. So here's what happened. Michigan, of course, struck out. They had the problem with Sharon Moore and all the drama and a lot of legal issues going on with him, personal issues too. And so they struck out. And you wonder, are they going to wait for Alabama and Kalen DeBoer? That was one of the stories, and among others. And then they waited. And sometimes when you wait, like Penn State, they struck out a few times. They may not admit that, but they did. And next thing you know, they got a guy that probably, if you looked at Penn State and look at who looks like a Penn State coach, the way he coaches, then you see what happened when they got Matt Campbell at Iowa State. Kyle Whittingham is the new head football coach at Michigan. It took a little while, but finally you just look up and go, what about him? He's been really good. He had the year 2 years ago that didn't go well. They bounced back last year, and he was asked at part of the press conference, what are his expectations at Michigan and his thoughts about Ohio State?
Every coach has expectations no matter where they are. How do you think they'll be different here at Michigan than what you faced before?
Well, Michigan here is playoffs. I mean, you got to get to the playoffs. That's our expectation. That's my expectation. You know, Big Ten championship. Obviously we'll get you to the playoffs, but if you can get to that 10-win mark, that usually is a pretty good indicator that you will be in the playoffs, especially when they expand, which is going to happen at some point soon. And so that's the bar. I mean, the University of Michigan, how can it be any different than that?
And just to be clear, do you dislike Ohio State, or is that something you have to learn how to do?
I do now, I guess, but like I said, I followed them for quite a while. Me and Urban were on the same staff at Utah. I was his defense coordinator, so there was a real tight bond there, and I followed his career and obviously stayed in touch throughout the course of his career and had great success there. But now I'm on the right side of the deal now.
I've seen what Urban Meyer said. I saw also what Dan Mullen, as he was a defensive coordinator. Mullen and Whittingham on the same staff. They used to beat the hell out of each other at practices. We're not going to play this entire thing because it goes a couple of minutes, but we'll play the first few seconds of Kyle Whittingham's opening introductory comments when introduced as the head coach with the Wolverines.
All right. I'm operating on about 4 hours sleep in the last 3 days, so If I'm a little bleary-eyed, I apologize. But I can say without question what an honor it is to be here, what a privilege it is to be able to coach this football team, the University of Michigan. Just a place that just reeks of tradition. Academically, as good as anybody in the country, resource-wise, so many things here at University of Michigan that are just absolutely top-notch. One of the top universities in the world, and so it's an honor to be able to be in this position. Like I said, 21 years at Utah, stepped down a couple weeks ago. Wasn't sure if I was finished or not. I still had a lot left in the tank, but I knew that there was about, you can count on one hand the amount of schools that if they called, I would listen and I would be receptive to what they had to say. Michigan was one of those schools, definitely a top 5 job in the country, without a doubt. And so when the ball started rolling and the more I learned about Michigan, the more excited I got. And I'm just elated to be here. I had a chance to meet with the team last night. Great group of young men. They're eager. They were excited to have a head coach named. I mean, they were without a coach for a little bit, and so it was good for them to put a face to a name. And I'm going to be meeting with all those players individually over the course of the time I'm here at the Bowl site. And can't wait to get back to Ann Arbor. I guess we call it the A2. Get back to the A2 and begin working with these young men.
All right, well, one of the young men that he met with, and Garrett, not a surprise, is Underwood, the quarterback. He is the star. He is the straw that stirs the drinks. He's the huge recruit that Michigan was able to secure and had what was at times a very, you could see what he has to bring to the table. Still young and raw, but very, very talented. He met with him. That was the first player, according to reports, he met with for 45 minutes or so. And all indications that everything is going to be just fine, at least for now, with Kyle Whittingham and the players that he's spoken with.
I mean, this should be. I don't understand how you could not like this hire if you're Michigan or anybody associated with the program. I understand there's probably going to be a lot of people out there that are looking like, why did Michigan go and hire a Big 12 guy? Well, go and look at his resume. It's absolutely speaks for itself. Everything he's gone out there and been able to do. And to me, it's like, he's going to be able to come in and insert the right culture, the right foundation that you're looking for at Michigan. And he has every value that you want if you're that type of program. Now, Bryce Underwood, I'm be interested to see how he fits into that offense, because if you look at what Kyle Whittingham has done over the past few years, it's been more like run focused with the quarterbacks. I think Bryce Underwood is probably the most talented quarterback he's had at his disposal, but it's going to be interesting to see. I think, to me, the more important thing with this hire is his ability to bring Jay Hill over as his defensive coordinator. And that kind of shows, once again, the mutual respect and connections you have with Utah and BYU, where you might hate each other's guts when you're on the field, but there's so much crossover there that I think it's just really remarkable. So it's a great hire. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they work over there, but I think Michigan nailed it personally.
Well, I do think that something fell in their lap, and sometimes patience can work. And then sometimes it can just get worse. There's some programs that thought they had somebody, it didn't work out, and then, my God, you're grasping at straws. So there's Kyle Whittingham. Matt Marshall is that he's covering the bowl game in Orlando, and he asked Whittingham about his age. By the way, that kind of offended me a little bit because I'm 66 and so is Kyle Whittingham, but he was asked about his age, and he said that I signed a 5-year contract. I made a mistake in Utah. They started asking me about retirement, and I started answering questions and giving my own thing. I don't think I'm that old. I'm 66. I love Kyle Whittingham for saying that, but it's not that old. I feel like I got a lot of energy left and juice to see this through. And I never have thought. Now, 2024, you could see he was kind of worn out a little bit, beaten down a little bit. The constant who's going to play quarterback, the Cam Rising in and out or not. And they had a bad year. He hasn't had many of them because this year Utah bounced back and had themselves a very nice year. So I love the way he tackled the age question. Gordon Monson writes for the Salt Lake City Tribune, his article, Utah blew it with Kyle Whittingham, all to Michigan's benefit. The article was basically, if Kyle Whittingham, and if you're a Utah Utes fan, let me know, if Kyle Whittingham had gas left in his tank, that was the next. If Kyle Whittingham was not ready to stop being a head coach, he doesn't need to be anywhere else but still at Utah. And he went over the decision making. The Utah athletic director of athletics, Mark Harlan. There's been some people upset with that. And then there's also, I've seen former players, Eric Waddell. Remember, he was in the NFL, played at Utah. He said, Morgan Scalley, let's go. But he wrote a book about his life and his career. He was always one of those overachievers, so to speak. And the foreword was written by Kyle Whittingham. So it's not like he's not supporting Whittingham. He was just making sure that he also was supporting Morgan Scalley as the head coach. Now, Scott Gerard wrote this. If Kyle Whittingham has gas left in the tank, which apparently he does, he should be the head coach at Utah, end of story, whatever, or whoever made Kyle feel like he was in danger of overstaying his welcome screwed up in a big, big way. Now, not everybody feels that way. There are some that maybe they are happy about the change and maybe the new or fresh look at how Utah will move forward. But it does seem like that was awkward, as if you're kind of like, no, we have the. And anytime you do the head coach in waiting, no matter it can always. Remember, Will Muschamp at one point was the head coach in waiting at Texas, I believe, with Mac Brown, and he ended up going somewhere else. And it's kind of awkward. I see. Why do you have to say that someone's guaranteed to be the head coach because he's going to get more money? We'll just give him more money. Does he need a new title? We'll give him a title. But I think in this case, Whittingham, among all of everybody in Division I or FBS football, was one you would have thought that would have been given just a little more time to make his decision. And perhaps he's also feeling a little bit of party. Well, they kind of forced me out. Maybe they did. Maybe he felt that, and maybe he wanted to move on. I bet, Garrett, when he decided it was time to move on, because Morgan Scalley is somebody that he obviously has a great relationship with, and agreed to the coach in waiting. But I don't think Kyle Whittingham, I don't think he ever thought he would end up at Michigan.
No, I mean, I think that's one where you're just kind of sitting there, you're sitting back evaluating your future, and then a job like Michigan happens to open up, and you're like, well, I can't pass this by. I don't think if it was like another, I think it had to, like, you even kind of heard Kyle say there were about 5 schools that would have fell in this category. And I think it just was the right opportunity at the right time, the right fit. I don't like appointing coaches saying you're the guy in waiting, because you set yourself up for this. And honestly, like most of the time that people do that or programs do that, it does not work out in their favor. And I'm interested to see like what the pulse is in Utah with this decision, because all the hype coming in with Utah was they were going to come in and they were going to run the Big 12, right? They've been the most disappointing four-corner school, in my opinion, to join in football. You haven't lived up to any of your expectations. That was with Kyle Whittingham. So now, if you weren't able to do it with him, how can you build the momentum and the confidence under Morgan Scalley, who's never even been a head coach? Plus, you have your rival over here at BYU with all the confidence in the world and all the money. So it's kind of a double-edged sword if you're a Utah fan right now in this situation.
Yeah, Colorado hasn't done anything.
No. Well, outside of this, but they had the Dion effect,
yeah,
right?
But they had that adrenaline rush for at least the first couple of years. That's worn off quite a bit. We'll have a note about Colorado in a moment. Utah, the weather, the environment, the type of offense. Whittingham's going to run kind of a spread, but they're going to run it with power. And so you're going to see more of that. I'm not going to throw Bo Schembechler, 3 clouds and three yards in a cloud of a bunch of broken up tires that they play on these days. Some play on grass fields, but it just seemed awkward. So there we are with that. And then Notre Dame. I never thought Marcus Freeman was leaving, but he put this out earlier today. 2026 locked in. Run it back. They, of course, are not in a bowl game because the team decided not to play in one. And more on that in a second. But Marcus Freeman was getting interest from NFL teams and perhaps felt like it probably was something he needed to put out there. And they've taken care of him. He's a young guy, 39. He'll be 40 next month. He's 40-12. College football championship game, losing to Ohio State a year ago. The disappointing 10-2 based on expectations. The losses in the last minute against Miami, in the last few seconds, of course, against Texas A&M. He seems to be entrenched for now, at least for now, and good luck to him moving forward. Although after they opt out of the bowl game, there was a time when I was growing up, and this is for most people who are probably even Garrett, your age or younger. you either love Notre Dame or you hated them. It's kind of like some schools think of, let's say, name 5 other schools in college football. I did not like them. And one of the reasons, and they weren't always great, when I was growing up born in 1959 with the 60s and 70s and started understanding college football, broke my heart when they beat Texas. I said that, Paxton, because Earl Campbell's senior year won the Heisman, and then Notre Dame with the Browner brothers and company beat Texas up in the Cotton Bowl to win the national title. I always thought that team with Tony Rice, the quarterback, when they won it all, like it was 1988, that's the last time they won it all. But you grew up, you didn't like Notre Dame because they were like a little bit above you. They never said that to me, but you got that impression because you pick sides. Like either you grow up, you like Ohio State or Michigan, or you like USC or UCLA. But Marcus Freeman hanging around, staying around, and does mention, still don't like the fact that he's the head coach of a team that opted out, because I still think there's too much of that in many ways around here where we live now. You don't get your way, go home. I don't like the fact they opted out. I understand they were frustrated. I can understand if they were angry, but opting out of that bowl game is still something I don't like. And they weren't the only one, because others eventually did that too. Then, because they opted out, you had Georgia Tech and BYU. God, I want to go back and watch this game like 5 times and binge it. I just knew that this would be a great game. 2 teams that will beat the hell out of you. Doesn't mean they're flawless. 2 quarterbacks in the freshman and Bachmeier and the senior and Haynes King, who I love to death. And it was such a great game. And Georgia Tech jumped out to the lead, and then, what was it, 21-10?
Yeah, but it was a couple of scores. Yeah, 21-10.
And then BYU starts to chip away. Well, before the game, the Pop-Tarts Bowl, which is America's game. And so the winner of this game is America's national champion. The Pop-Tarts Bowl, they don't miss anything. The marketing people are so brilliant. What they did when the toaster went up and the Pop-Tarts came, that was the greatest thing maybe ever in bowl history. They unveiled a Ring of Honor. Class of 23, the strawberry Pop-Tart, the cinnamon roll Pop-Tart, which is not my favorite, but most everybody, usually they lean to that. I love the strawberry or the cherry, but they actually had a Ring of Honor at the stadium for the Pop-Tarts Bowl. This, someone, who was this? Dan Giesling. The marketing team at the Pop-Tarts Bowl needs to be studied and then protected at all costs.
They're not wrong.
It was probably in the late 70s, early 80s. The Orange Bowl took, there was the Rose Bowl and all the pageantry. We know about that, and they'll tell you about it too. But that's what they were known for. And it was always a Big Ten against the Pac-12 champion or whatever, Pac-8, Pac-12. But that was the pageantry and the Rose Bowl parade. But the games, the ones that I thought jumped out initially was the Orange Bowl, which normally would be like an SEC or a Big 8 team playing, or an independent. But the Orange Bowl had the halftime show. They had the spectacular, almost Disney-like light parade and halftime show. That was what they were known for, along with always usually a pretty good game. And now everybody does these pregame and halftime shows that are, in some cases, for me, over the top. But that is the Pop-Tarts Bowl has taken this thing to a level where all the rest of the marketing teams must wake up and go, damn them, because you can't catch up. Maybe you can at some point. So you tell me that bowl games don't matter. I saw, and I was on Twitter the last couple of days, and I think people really think that I don't mean what I'm saying, and I do. It's amazing to me that bowl games don't matter if your team loses, or a team that you like that's in the conference or don't like but they're in the conference. It's amazing they count, though, if you win. And it's like this another, like, what the F are we doing with these excuses? And, oh, my God, it didn't count our quarterback. And some of them are legitimate, but it's like it's a default. Remember Georgia, Texas, back when UT beat Georgia, and it was like, well, Georgia didn't care because they weren't going to play for the national title. And I get some of that as legitimate, but don't take away from a team that you're still Georgia. Come on. And so we see, I saw too much of that. I started thinking, and first of all, this one guy, he's like losing his mind. Then I look in he brings up the title in his Twitter feed. I did not know these people existed. And I say these people. Yes, these people. I saw in his title, he was a Texas Tech and Texas A&M fan.
You can't do that.
You can't. You can't be both. I don't care if you went to Tech and got your master's at A&M. As football, you can't do both. You can't. They hate each other. And Texas Tech had a run against them for the longest time, and A&M might look at them and go, the way Texas sometimes looks at A&M or others. You cannot be both. And so I was like, I'm arguing with a guy that's like, and he even said he was, what was the word? Deranged. No, yeah. If you're a Texas Tech and say you're also an A&M fan, you have to be a part of deranged. So they play, so you have these games. So BYU, and I thought was a spectacular game. I wanted Haynes King to win because I love the young man and the family. And then I wanted BYU and Kalani Sitake to win. And yeah, I wanted to see the Big 12 get a nice win because they have done really well this year against the ACC. Kalani Sitake, where Notre Dame opted out, and other teams that opted out, and other teams that weren't supposed to be going to bowls, they even were given the chance and they opted out. Like, well, one of them is Baylor. Kalani Sitake on being left out. This is now several days after they've decided who's going to be a part of the playoff. And listen to how Kalani Sitake handled the question.
The playoff committee and all that stuff, listen, they made the decision, we're fine. We got to move on and just keep playing football. I think what the committee did is it's a hard decision for them to go and put that together. But we love football. We're going to watch the playoffs. We're going to watch all the bowl games. I love that these guys want to play the game, and we had everybody trying to play. The only ones that didn't play are the ones that were injured, and we held out. I mean, Jack Kelly wanted to play. We held him out, and LJ wanted to play, but he had that surgery. So these guys love football. We love football. It just so happened that we were outside of it, and that's okay. I love the maturity from our players that we earned another chance to play a game, and these guys came here with a great attitude. To be in here and had so much appreciation and gratitude for being invited to the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and then their interaction with Georgia Tech and all the festivities. I was really proud of these guys, and that's how you do things in life. If it's not the way you wanted it to go, that's okay. Your reaction is going to be what everybody's going to define you with.
I love him. We've had him on so many times in the last 4 years. I absolutely appreciate Kalani Sitake. That doesn't mean he hasn't ever maybe crossed a little bit over, like not real happy about somebody. He just seemed like he handles everything very well, including the fact it didn't hurt that he won the bowl game against a fantastic team in Georgia Tech. So while we're away, there were a couple of young men who played high school football outside of Waco at Chita Spring High School. Their father, Mark, was a coaching, really damn good football coach. Sean Bell, he's going to join us tomorrow. He was the quarterback's coach and passing game coordinator. He is now the assistant head coach and the other roles too for Willie Fritz and the University of Houston. His brother, Brian Bell, was a state championship head coach at Chita Spring, won a national title at Sam Houston State. He also went down to Houston, was an analyst. He was an analyst. He now has been promoted, and he is now the wide receivers coach. Willie Fritz making those decisions over the break, and of course, then they won their game, and we're not done talking about the Cougars either. And then Riley Dodge, former South Lake Carroll High School star that won a state championship. His dad, Taj, was one of the greatest coaches ever in high school football in Texas, also played at Texas. Riley Dodge, they just lost in the championship game they lost in the semifinal game to DeSoto. They've had a great run. We've had him on the high school podcast a handful of times. He then decided he's going to take the job at SMU. Good for him. Riley Dodge, one of the great lineage names in Texas high school football, and the Bell brothers both getting a promotion too.
I love this. I think they've all earned it. I think that when you look at their trajectories, that it was inevitable that they were all going to be coaches at the college level. I'm interested to see how Brian develops it. And I'm interested to get talked to Sean about this too, because Sean's always said that Brian's the best coach in the family. So kind of seeing how that goes and the path there. But Riley, no surprise that he's able to go to SMU. It's just see what he can do there. But congratulations to all those guys.
So SMU, Riley Dodge, a part of that staff. South Lake Carroll, one of the great names and programs in Texas high school football history, in the Bell family now with both full-time coaches. Both Sean was already one, and now Brian Bell. Well, they're taking care of him too. And he now is a part of the wide receivers position. And before we move on, how about Houston? 38-35 against LSU. That was a late game, like a 9:30 game. I hate those late games. Remember, we covered that game just a year ago when LSU beat Baylor, when Nussmeier was so good in that game. And it's a late game in Houston. I remember I was like, I'm foggy-eyed. I'm up this late. I'm going to go ahead and just drive back to Waco after the game's over, like a 3-hour drive. But it was 14-0 early LSU. You know, they're in the coaching transition with Kiffin about to take over. They had a lot of players who hit the portal, you know, but it was 14-0. And I actually saw, I'm not saying who you are because I don't know who you are. You have fake names on Twitter, and I get that too. That it was 14-0 LSU. And even like when BYU was down against Georgia Tech, you mean this was the team that people thought should have been in the playoff? Well, they came back to one, and those people disappeared. It's like 14-0 LSU, and it was like, wait a minute. You mean this team, LSU, SEC? And I know that they're ravaged, but guess what? That Houston didn't quit. They kept kind of just – and Connor Wigman was fantastic in that game, and Houston comes back to win the game 38-35. And a great win, a 10-win season in year 2 for Willie Fritz. All he has ever done, no matter where he's been, is win. That's all he's ever done is win. So there we are with that note on Houston and the win against LSU. Now, Garrett, we were going to do this. I know we have Jeremiah Dicki of Boise State, Director of Athletics at 4. Mm-hmm. Seth Greenberg is going to join us at 4:25, right?
Correct. Yep.
And he's going to come on the show, ESPN college basketball analyst. We've had Seth on him many times over the story, which, yes, we are not going to get by that one without talking about it because we need to, on Baylor signing a young man that was drafted into the NBA 3 years ago. And that set college basketball on fire. It's like everybody, oh, my God. We will break all of that down. We will hear Scott Drew and his decision-making. We will hear or get a quote from Tom Izzo, who actually said he had reached out to Scott Drew. We will also hear from Seth Greenberg, his thoughts about what in the living is going on with college athletics. Well, we asked that question. We've been asking that question now for 4 or 5 years. And there's even a tweet about the story with Baylor signing the young man from the G League, who's 21 years old, who's about the average age now of college athletics and maybe more basketball than even football, saying this is it. This is it's going to break now. No, is it? So we'll get into that. We will get into that after we have Jeremiah Dicki, but we have a lot, including hearing from Scott Drew. But we're not done. More stories to come. Garrett Ross and Andrew Valade. For those of you in the chat, and we do appreciate all of you, tell me what was your favorite moment, whether as just a person, a member of the family, playing a round of golf and you had a hole-in-one. What was your favorite gift? Just give me in the chat room, what was your favorite thing that happened to you during the Christmas break? And we'll do that and more. And we're not done. We have a lot to get to. David Smoak, 365 Sports. PettyClinicalOT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. How can he help you out? 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. And if your testosterone level drops, and 1 out of every 3 or 4 men, it starts to happen usually when you get into your 40s, and maybe it takes a little bit longer, but it's going to happen. But not everybody, but let's say you're part of that percentage that your testosterone level drops. It could affect your sex drive. It could also affect, let's say you have sex drive, but then you have performance issues like ED. It could be just your energy's not the same. That could affect all of that too. You're not sleeping well. Let's say you're in pretty good shape and you even work out for the most part consistently and you have a good diet, but for some reason, there's a little bit of that edge of belly fat around your waistline. and you feel like you work out pretty well and you have a good diet, some of that could be your testosterone level dropping. Contact Petty Clinic, lowt.com, and tell them I sent you. He, Dr. Petty, and his staff, they will set you up with a blood work appointment, draw your blood, get the results, take care of that appointment, and get back in touch with you. And if your testosterone level is too low, based on what should be the norm number, then Dr. Petty can put you in a program so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
My go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
You have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a defob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
At Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, we're proud to be your premier destination in Waco for exceptional automotive service. Whether you're searching for a new vehicle, a quality pre-owned car, or dependable service and parts, our team is here to take care of you every step of the way. Visit Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco, where great deals, friendly service, and your next ride are waiting. Come by, let's be friends.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Oh, good one.
100%.
Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Gas floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels.
We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
All right, some of you have responded in the chat room about what you were doing or what was your favorite part of the Christmas holidays. Garrett, make sure I go back over that perhaps at the end of this segment. Jeremiah Dicki, Boise State Director of Athletics at 4, and then also at 4:25, Seth Greenberg of ESPN. Phil Bennett will join us today at 5. So DeAnton Lynn headed to be a part of the staff as defensive coordinator at Penn State. Informed USC he's accepting the job. That's a good hire, really good hire. He's a hell of a coach. Matt Campbell gets who he wants. Lynn, a former Penn State 3-time All Big Ten defensive back. Nice win for the Nittany Lions. And then Fernando Lobo is the new director of athletics at Colorado. He was introduced today. A couple things about him. It's a 5-year deal. He replaces Rick George, who is going to be the athletic director emeritus. He was at New Mexico this past year, hired Jason Eck, and you remember what year? They had a hell of a year for New Mexico. First time they've won, 9 games in forever. He was at UT Austin a couple of different times as an administrator, UT's chief of staff from 16 to 21. And then he went to the Jaguars, spent a year in the NFL as a part of the Jaguars. He is also, his alma mater is Florida. This seems to be a pretty solid hire, young guy. And then he went back to UT one more time before this opportunity at Colorado, senior associate AD before he went to New Mexico and now part of Colorado. And good luck to him. The 7th athletic director at the University of Colorado. We'll try to see if we can get him on the show. We never got, of the 4 corner schools, it was like trying to ask someone to pick up a copperhead snake or any snake, quite frankly, of getting the ADs. From Harlan at Utah, we still haven't gotten him. George at Colorado, never got him. The young lady, the woman AD at Arizona, we never got her. And Arizona State, we never got him either. It's like all the others we've had. The other 12 schools, I think we've had 11. Well, all of them could not get them on. So then, you talk about bowl games don't matter. This is kind of a good and bad story. University of North Texas, what a year. Eric Morris, of course, now the head football coach at Oklahoma State. North Texas won their bowl game, and it was kind of a nice shootout. It was at San Diego State.
Yep.
They won the game, best season ever, and now their team has been shredded with the portal. Part of the deal, right? And you wonder about not just second-tier schools, is what John Ziegler mentioned, because a lot of the FBS schools have in their rosters rated too. But look at this. Drew Mestamaker, spectacular record-breaking quarterback, the freshman who never really got a scholarship. Eric Morris said, let's give this young man from Vandergrift a chance. Did not start at varsity football. And he has entered the portal. Drew Mestamaker threw for 4,400 yards, 34 touchdowns, was absolutely one of the great stories this year in the state of Texas in college football, but around the country. Also in the portal, you have this young man, Caleb Hawkins. Look at these numbers. 1,264 yards rushing. 1,434 yards rushing, 25 touchdowns. He could catch it, 32 catches, 4 touchdowns. He went 30 carries for 198 yards and 2 scores, rushing, and also caught a touchdown pass in the win against San Diego State. He will be, he's in the portal. So is Wyatt Young, the wide receiver, a phenomenal player. He's in the portal, and then we'll get to Miles Coleman. 70 catches, 1,264 yards, and 10 touchdowns. And Miles Coleman, Garrett, you weren't fortunate. We were to watch Midway in those early games down at University of Mary Hardin Baylor. They played Vandegrift. Miles Coleman is one bad son of a gun. Unbelievable speed, great hands. Watched him torch. And Midway was kind of, but Vandegrift was so good. And I saw Miles Coleman. He could run back, punch. This young man is spectacular. He now is in the portal. 47 catches, 2 touchdowns, 2 years at 83 catches. He now is a part of UNT and the breakaway, the opting out, or no, not opting out. They played, but now in the transfer portal. The first thing you think about is, like, for example, former Oregon quarterback Austin Novosad. Remember him? He was committed. He wanted to go to A&M. He committed to Baylor for the longest time. Sean Bell was the Baylor quarterback's coach. At the last second, takes a trip in the dark of the night to Oregon. Never really plays much there. And now he's in the portal. And everyone's saying, okay, where's he going to go? Was he committed to Baylor? Well, his offensive coordinator, Will Stein, Garrett, is at Kentucky.
Yeah, I think that's.
And I don't know if that means that's where he's going, but that's got to be at least an option.
I think it is, and I thought it was kind of interesting to see like all of the backlash from the Baylor people, because they're more than likely going to be in the market for a quarterback in the portal. We'll have to see, but just seeing that happen and seeing all the backlash there was kind of interesting to me. Not surprised, but I think it's one of those where you just kind of let it go and just move on. But look, Austin Novosad's going to be fine. He's not like an elite quarterback. He's going to be good if he goes to Will Stein and they have success at Kentucky. Great for him. If he doesn't, wish him the best success wherever he goes. But that's just one of those things when you're close to it and you always kind of keep an eye on it. You see the pettiness with people.
Yeah, no, no. If you're a Baylor fan, you're still pissed off.
Oh,
yeah, you still don't like him. He's like Benedict Arnold, whatever. And then again, when you get a quarterback, he was at one point perhaps committed to somebody else. Right? Sawyer Robertson was at Mississippi State. Bryce Petty was committed to Tennessee. And there were circumstances for them not to be that way anymore. But it's just so fun to watch the hypocrisy That was a last second deal.
It was brutal.
It was a tough loss in the recruiting portal or in the recruiting story with Baylor when he went to Oregon. And by the way, he went to Oregon. And Baylor was coming off a hell of a year, but he went to Oregon. And again, now where he ends up, where it might be. Quintravian Wisner. I love this kid. He played at Conley High School, which is 8 to 10 miles up the road. Mm-hmm. We did their games his sophomore year. They were really good. One of the best players in that team was a young man named Kavion Gaither. He was the quarterback and linebacker safety. Ended up playing at Sam Houston State. But this young man, he went by Trey Wisner. I've watched football, covered football now for 44 years. I've seen great running backs. Like one now, Midway has this one, Lathan Wissington, who's spectacular. This is one of the fastest players I've ever seen. Miles Coleman fast, the wide receiver in North Texas. This kid could fly. And he was young. He was kind of spindly. And at times, he got hit in a game against arch rival La Vega. Did that game, and you could see I don't know if I like this. But then they played a game at the end of the year that they had to win to had to get to the playoffs. And they were playing against China Spring, by the way. I'm not so sure if Brian Bell wasn't the coach.
He was.
He damn sure was.
He was the coach.
And the next year, I think, is when maybe China Spring next year won the state championship. Mm-hmm. So Quintavian, it was a tight game. Played over at China Spring. It was a tight game. And he went in and, he again, if he had any room at all, gone. Like I've said before, like a bullet through a keyhole. But there was a moment in the game, he was also playing defensive back, and there was a fumble or something. And Quintravian came up and hit somebody and scooped the ball. Did not score, but he could just everything, I think, with his physicality and his mental outlook and maybe confidence changed. And he ended up making big play after big play. Eventually transferred to DeSoto, the great 6A school with 5A numbers in enrollment. And, man, he was so good for UT. What would UT have been without him last year?
Oh, miserable.
Think about it. They lost Baxter early. Now, they always have a cupboard of running backs. All of them seem to be in the portal right now as they try to maybe change things up. His toughness last year, to me, was part of that, what Sarkisian and UT had in 24. They were really good. Remember how good they were. He was one of the reasons.
This one kind of caught me by surprise. I'm not going to lie. I know you're going to see a lot of star players or big name players go into the portal, but the mass exodus in general from Texas on the backfield is concerning if I'm a Longhorn fan. But looking at this one, to me, Trey Wisner was the perfect fit for that system. You're going to be the number one guy next year, barring an addition via the transfer portal. I'm interested to see who got in his ear. Because that's exactly what this feels like. And I'm interested to see, there's not – how many schools do you leave Texas to go to, right? There's only a handful if you're looking at that caliber of a program. So I'm really interested to see where he goes and winds up.
Well, yeah, they don't lose many players unless they're going to change. Like with Muschamp coming in, are there a couple of players who entered the portal because that's not a mix or a match? I know I've seen, there's always, because fans get on message boards, get on websites, mm-hmm. They all think they know everything, and there's some who are more locked in than others, but I didn't see anyone say anything negative about him, but maybe he wasn't able to stay as healthy, but I'm telling you, do they make the run they made last year? Without him, with what they had, the problems at running back.
There's no way.
Jaden Blue, remember, had the fumble issues. Mm-hmm. Baxter was hurt, and Trey Wisner comes in and I thought he was great last year. Great. I thought he was, considering the situation. I thought he was really, really good. And if you think about it, against A&M this year, that game, Arch played pretty well. Early on, A&M had the ball first in the third quarter. They're up, and they had nothing. But I thought they started running the ball. UT started running the ball, and Wisner was a part of that. And I hate to see him leave, but he will end up being taken care of. I don't think – I could be wrong. I have not reached out to him. I have his number. I have his mother's number because of the fact that when he was being recruited, I wonder if this is something because there is something out there where somebody said, hey, how about this? UT can get a lot of who they want. They don't have to overpay very often. Doesn't mean they haven't. And you wonder if that's part of the deal, as you mentioned, Garrett. Cam Coleman of Auburn. Saw him in the opening game of the year against Baylor. Fantastic talent. He has entered the portal. I think Paul put in the tweet when he mentioned that to us. He's going to get bank. He's going to get banked. He's a really good player.
I mean, every team's probably going to go after him, especially if you're in the SEC. He's going to get a lot of money. I think he was probably one of the most misused players this year. I mean, given the expectations coming in, I thought if you're an Auburn fan, you were expecting to throw the ball all over the field. Obviously, Jackson Arnold wasn't able to do that. Outside of running, he was really non-factor. So, yeah, Cam Coleman's going to go and link up with a good quarterback. He's going to put up some ridiculous numbers and get him a bag this offseason.
Yeah, Auburn had some really good receivers, and he was one of them. And then I thought this was one of the stories. Now, Rice, of course, their quarterback at the last second decided to opt out. Chase Jenkins, who was their starter, didn't put up crazy numbers as a guy who's a dual-threat type of player. This is from Scott Abel, the head coach at Rice, who we had on really soon after he was hired at Rice. They got to a bowl game. Chase came to me this morning before our first practice after the Christmas break, informed me of his decision to opt out of the bowl game. College football players today are being pulled in a lot of directions, and I hope the information that led him to this decision is accurate and has his best interest in mind. But at the end of the day, my focus turns to giving all of my attention to the quarterbacks that are here. Our team had a great first day back from Christmas break, and I'm excited for their opportunity to lead us in the Armed Forces Bowl. You want to get in the portal? We appreciate everything you've done. We move on. That's the way you have to take it. And then also the little nugget, I hope whatever he was being promised is legitimate. And you hear a lot of questions about whether or not it might be that way. I don't know what it is. My left contact is my reading contact, but it's a little bit wobbly. I'm going to look at the chat, Garrett.
Okay.
I said, what was your favorite moment during the Jeremiah Dicki joins us at 4. Let's see here. My favorite moment, just being with the family. This is from General Ursus, the Tennessee fan. I'm at a point in my life where giving gifts doesn't mean as much to me, and it's more about seeing the joy on other faces as they open their presents. Let's see here. There's some comments about opting out and everything else as well. Let me see them. My daughter bought me a mini battery operated chainsaw. What? I didn't know I didn't know they had chainsaws that were battery operated, but they do.
I think a lot of that stuff. Yeah, a lot of that stuff's starting to go to like battery operated, like lawn care and things.
Yeah, you would think I was Paul Bunyan in the backyard sawing firewood. Watching the grandkids, Johnny Boy, watching the grandkids open their presents is the best thing for me. From Roll Tide, playing in a bowl game with a full roster and your opponent is depleted of players. I'd sit my top players because you lose or struggle to win. It's not a good look. I know I get the opt-outs. I get the transfer portal. I don't get that there aren't really any rules in the NCAA, even if they had them, would screw them up anyway. I just see different coaches look at these bowl games differently, and some of them are from programs that it's not like they just started winning. Something's got to be done, and this is not old man. I am 66 years old. Get off my lawn. There's just like, golly, because Georgia Tech and BYU beat the hell out of each other to win that bowl game for Pop-Tarts. Not for money, Pop-Tarts. I was the only sober person in my house on Christmas Day. I kid you not. Well, I hope everybody had fun. And somebody has to be responsible,
you gotta
right?
be responsible, yeah.
Let's see. I played some football with my 5 boys and nephews. Big mistake, huge mistake on my part. I am getting old. It is real. Favorite moment, seeing looks on the grandkids' faces when opening presents. Smokey, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have a drinking problem. I drink, I get drunk, I fall down, I get back up, no problem. Okay, that's from Fight On. My son made me his famous Bougie mac and cheese.
Bougie mac and cheese?
Yeah. And my daughter crocheted me a skull cap. Well, visiting for Christmas. There's a good one. All right, Garrett.
What's up?
One of the narratives, you're an LSU guy.
I am.
They went through transition. Obviously, Kiffin's there. Kelly's out. Players opted out. But should Houston not enjoy the win? And should there then be a but that we see? And I'm being honest. We see this a lot now. Certain conferences, there's always a reason, legitimate or otherwise. Well, bowl games don't matter.
Okay, I think bowl games, and for instance, I think it matters. Man, so I think it just depends on where you're at as a program, whether on how much the bowl games matter or not. For instance, to me as an LSU fan, the bowl game for LSU did not matter at the end of the day because in my eyes, their season ended at the Texas A&M game. I feel like that was it. Every LSU fan was done. You could not care less about the season after that. If you're from Houston and you're looking at this bowl game, it means the world, and it should. And that win should have it should not be devalued in any way because you put your full team out there. It meant the world to you. It was in your city, and you got 10 wins for the first time in quite some time, and you built all the momentum going forward. LSU, like you threw a bunch of guys out there and hoping that you could out-talent Houston, and that worked for about like half a quarter. And then ultimately it came down to coaching, fundamentals, discipline, and Houston had all of that. LSU didn't. And there's no reason that you should take anything away from that if you're Houston. You should be very proud of it. It should mean the world to you, and it should honestly make you more motivated and set your standards even higher next season. Now, if you're LSU, yeah, you were coming into the season expected to be in the college football playoff, and ultimately it just fell off. The wheels fell off. So I think there's different standards for different programs and how you view these bowl games. Now, if your teams like BYU and Georgia Tech, those are excellent matchups. They're both very similar culturally. I think there was a lot on the line for that. But I think bowl games, there needs to be a way to adapt it. I don't have a problem. Like if LSU would have opted out of that bowl game, I wouldn't have been bad. I wouldn't have cared, honestly, because the season was over for them. At the end of the day, though, it's how your players want to respond. If they are engaged, the circumstances around your team, in my eyes, that make how you view bowl games and the significance of them or the importance of them in your eyes, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, here's what I don't see, and I'm not saying the SEC is a great conference and basically everything. We know it. It's obvious. They win titles, and yet there does seem to be, and I think it all started with the Georgia-Texas bowl game back 5 years ago, whenever it was, that there's always something. Hey, LSU smoked Baylor in the end. They ended up like separating in the second half. They were better. They were better. This year, Houston kind of wears them down, and eventually they take the lead, and eventually they win the game. I guess I'm more fed up with there's always a reason if somebody loses a bowl game, no matter what conference. Maybe too much focus on the SEC, that there's always a reason. I don't get it. I'm not saying that some of it's not legitimate. I get a little bit worn out with it. That's, I guess maybe, yes, get off my damn lawn. That's the way I might feel. All right. Because I'll tell you what, when it was 14-0, you saw some of that. Well, here's the 10th place team in the SEC beating the 4th place team in the Big 12. And then 2 hours later, crickets.
Yep.
When we come back, Jeremiah Dicki on College Athletics Today. He's got some what he thinks are solutions, and he's like, what am I missing here? We'll get into that. I'll ask him about the new director of athletics at Baylor, and Doug McNamee, who he knew when he was there before he moved on to Boise State. That and more. And let me see here. Who do we have, Garrett? I know I just wrote that.
Baylor Club.
Here we have the Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco. By the way, appreciate you being here today as we are in the midst of this weird stretch with Christmas being on a Thursday, New Year's being on a Thursday. So there's Christmas Eve and there's New Year's Eve, and then there's a Friday that kind of just hangs out there like an island. And so we do appreciate you joining us today on 365 Sports. Here's the deal. You have just a couple of days to go. The Baylor Club will entertain an event that you have. It could be a luncheon, a speaking engagement. We have a banquet there every May to honor elite senior student athletes in Greater Central Texas. They set it up for you. They have catering for you. And they will also do a lot of what the to-do list, getting ready for an event, to take all that pressure off your shoulders so you can enjoy getting ready for the event. I'm one of those that has a to-do list like a to-do for the banquet we do in May. And there's always something. Oh, my God. And the Baylor Club always has a cross-check, too, because I send it to them. And they're like, okay, have you done this? Have you done this? When are you going to bring this? And then the food has always been spectacular. The catering is great. And then, of course, the setting inside McLean Stadium in the Baylor Club is great. They will host your event and make it fantastic and make it a lot easier on you. Also, if you contact them between now and the end of the year, if you're having an event that you've booked for January and February, you have until the end of this week, basically until Thursday. You get a free choice of decor or AV, audio visual, if you book an event in January and February in the next 2 or 3 days. Nick Colwell, the general manager, a great place. Allison Bottoms handles a lot of the business office. A great place to host an event with memberships available. Tell them 365 Sports sent you.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
At BK4, we step onto the field every day for our customers. Here, legends are born and glory is earned. The spirit of competition unites us all as we stand as one. It's more than a truck, it's a passion. Get ready for the thrill, the triumphs, and the unforgettable moments that only BK Ford can deliver. Are you ready to experience better? BK Ford.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
It's football season, and we can create your outdoor tailgating spaces that is actually a part of your home. Bifold doors that tie in the inside and the outside, and you can gain anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 square feet living space, all while taking in the big game poolside. Call us at Gather & Co. Kitchen and Bath, where we can create your unique tailgating space.
This is 365 Sports.
We are back, 365 Sports. We take you up until sometime between 5:30 and 6 as I'm flying solo. Craig joins me tomorrow. Garrett Rost and Andrew Valade running the mothership. And we are joined by the Director of Athletics at Boise State University, Jeremiah Dicki, during the holidays. JD, thank you very much for your time. Did you enjoy Christmas? Are you getting any type of break between now and the first part of the semester next in January?
Well, hey, guys, thanks for having me on. And I apologize it went to voicemail. I am actually getting somewhat of a break, if you can call it that. I ended up going back to El Paso, which is where I'm at now, to see my family. And then I'm headed to Illinois tomorrow to see my wife's family. So I'm not sure I can call it a vacation per se, but it is nice to see the family. I haven't been home in a while.
Well, we appreciate you. I follow you on Twitter, and I've known you obviously from your time here and then what you've done at Boise State as well. Jeremiah, you wrote a tweet, and you put a tweet out. What am I missing? Where are the blinders? No particular order. Obviously, easier said than done, but FBS no longer under the NCAA. The NCAA takes the brunt of. Here's the bottom line, and it seems like the group of fives are fighting for your life. And by the way, the ACC and the Big 12 might be next. We don't know that. Where is the disconnect? What is actually, you think, the future? And do you feel like this thing will ever get any better?
First and foremost, I do feel like it's going to get better. There's always a solution. At the end of the day, the bottom is when you stop digging. And we see what's going on in our industry right now, and it's more maybe divided than it's ever been. And this is an industry I love and care about. And what I sent out in that tweet, it by no means did it mean that each one of those things would be easy or that it would solve all of our problems. But I do believe that we as leaders in this industry, especially if we care about the direction we're headed, that we need to be vocal, and throwing things at the wall to see what sticks maybe drives us forward in a united front to hopefully create some solutions to this chaos. I'm not sure. I think the only thing we can all agree on is that it is chaos, and we are living insanity. We need to develop some level of unity across our industry to really drive forward what our purpose and our why is. And I'm not sure anyone can tell us what that is right now. And so, me putting that out there, Smoak, I'm not the smartest guy, and I'm not saying I have all the solutions, and that's why I put it out. Do I have blinders to some of these things? But I think if you take each of those things that were suggested, that it could drive us to something that maybe makes more sense and create some sustainability when we look at the future of our industry.
Why can't there be collective bargaining?
I don't think that anyone can give a good reason of why there can't be. I think there's always a solution. I know some states, right to work states, maybe it would be more challenging, but we know that there is at minimum some templates that we can use from the professional realm, NBA, NFL, so on and so forth, that across multiple states that we can get there. There's also a potential non-employment collective bargaining. I know the employment of our student athletes, that's been a question that's been out there nationally. And as we sit here today, they're not counted as employees. I'm not saying any one of those things is a reason to or not to do it. But I do believe that when we look at what the hand we're holding, I do believe that is something we should consider. At minimum, we need to have conversations about it. That's a great question. Tell me why we can't do collective bargaining. I don't know necessarily that answer, but as I sit here today, what we're doing isn't working. So at minimum, we need to at least have that conversation. And I'm not the only one who's mentioned it. I think there are people in our industry that have said that over and over. I've heard coaches say it. I've heard ADs say it. I've heard people who are connected to our industry say it. So we need to have that conversation, and hopefully we can get to a solution.
We're going to hear in a second. Scott Drew had a press conference yesterday. Tom Izzo also had some comments, among others, and people went like, what in the hell's going on when they signed the young man who has been a part of the G League for 3 years, drafted into the NBA. And one of the things Scott said was he was against signing someone like this himself. And then he started realizing, again, his job is to win games. That doesn't mean you have to go do something. But he mentioned that until there is collective bargaining, a lot of this is always going to be in a gray area. So he even brought it up yesterday in his press conference. Unite media rights. Is this the idea? And I don't know why anyone who's already getting more than everybody else would do this, but is this kind of like, I've seen Cody Campbell or heard him say this, is this put all of everybody's money together in one big, huge bowl and distributed evenly? What does that mean in your opinion?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. I like what Cody Campbell is proposing. I think it's worth looking into once again. I know he's pushing back on the 1962 Sports Broadcast Act, I believe it is.
Yep.
The way I look at it is similar to the NFL many years ago. They united and ultimately ended up being more for all. And that's how I've simplified it in my mind. Obviously there's a lot there, and it sounds like we would need some congressional support, and Cody's done the work, and obviously is out telling that story. And I think that's something that we should consider. We cannot continue to make decisions based on what's best for me versus us. We have to look at it more holistically. And if we truly care about this industry, and Smoak, I do believe that we provide value to the communities that we operate in and serve. I believe we provide value to our student athletes and preparing them for life. And I don't want to lose that. We're not fully professional yet. There is this academic component, and I do believe a sustainable model exists. Now, how we get there, I think that's what I want people to do, is curiously question, and at least to have some conversations around it. And I look at uniting our industry. We don't have united leadership. The NCAA has lost its way. We have no guardrails to what we're doing. We need to look and consider, how do we create something that can live beyond us? And I hope to be in this industry, until I die. I absolutely love it, and I love what it represents. And I think now's the time for leaders to stand up and fight for what they feel is right. And we may not have the answers, and it's uncomfortable for me. I get it. Like, I'm throwing stuff out there that maybe my colleagues would disagree with, but we got to have these conversations. And I think one of those is uniting media rights.
So Boise State's athletic department budget is more than a lot of other schools who are not a part of what would be the group of six. And if somebody like Hardin-Simmons or Mary Hardin-Baylor, because those are non-scholarship, but if they wanted some of your money, would you want to give that to them? And secondly, if you're Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, whoever, why would you want to give any of that up?
It's art of war. To me, what is the greater good? What is going to allow us all to find success and to continue to serve and unite around the why that, why I joined, and I believe many other coaches and ADs around the country, to truly impact these student athletes' lives, especially at the age that they're at. And, I do believe in what we represent. And I do believe that sometimes you got to sacrifice for the greater good. And I get how uncomfortable that is. When I look at some of the teams you mentioned, and the competitive advantage, maybe the teams in the SEC and the Big Ten have, that doesn't mean that we should continue to double down on it, and continue to give up more power and control, because we all represent something in our communities and have an economic value and represent these student athletes and how we pour into them. And so I do think we have to have those uncomfortable conversations. And I do think, I'm sure the NFL, those teams were, maybe in New York, were saying, why are we allowing Green Bay to have, equal seat at the table? But it worked out for them. I think sometimes you got to bet on yourself and truly unite an industry to find what the greater good is and find maybe a path forward that becomes sustainable, because I'm not sure even those schools, as I'm reading these articles, and whether it's private equity or cutting staff or how it's impacting all sport programs, I'm not sure that they can sit there and say they have enough. The model is not sustainable. And so why not try to get more money? Why not try to create something sustainable? Why not have these conversations?
Well, yeah, like the Cowboys are the most valuable franchise in America. They even have surpassed the Yankees or whatever, but their revenue or whatever is the same as the Buffalo Bills. However, what Jerry was able to do is then find out, okay, this is all going to be even, the salary cap, whatever. We're going to go find extra money, and you wonder if that could be done in college. I don't know. If Ohio State was to share the money, I can't imagine they would with Colorado. Could they still end up making more? Here, and I get to this, the House settlement thing. I did not realize this, Jeremiah, when they finally, after all of the, oh my God, back and forth about getting it signed and negotiations and whatever, I was blown away, maybe just naive and stupid, that Boise State was going to, or whoever was going to pay the same amount to the lawsuit of the settlement as Ohio State or Texas. And yet you guys are not getting all of the rest of it in return. How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, we got called in the final hours, and we didn't have a seat at the table when that was being negotiated. And you know, I obviously am not privy to all the information, but how we got brought back, and my guess is because it cost more than they thought, and they wanted someone to share in the expense. I think that speaks to the lack of unity we have in our industry, you know, and the power that, you know, the power to have, you know, and you'd mentioned ACC and Big 12, you know, if I'm them, I'm concerned, you know, because the power that the other two have, and we're seeing it play out in real time, it's real. And, you know, it's something that bothers me, but I think when every AD, every president, every commissioner, they're doing what's best for the schools they represent, you know, this is what happens. You know, I go back to your example of the Dallas Cowboys. You know, yeah, Jerry's worth more and the Cowboys are worth more, but they all operate under the same cap and free agency rules and so on and so forth. Like, there is a way to create more value for the individual schools and still create parity and competition that drives viewership. And I believe that's where uniting media rights would be of value, but that's just one piece. I think we have to consider collective bargaining. You know, the lawsuits are going to continue to come, and that's unfortunate, but it's not surprising. Like, it's the least surprising thing. We're getting sued every other day, it seems like, from eligibility rules to, you know, I mean, it's nonstop. So at some point we have to say, all right, this isn't working, and we got to find a new solution. And we can't worry about spilt milk. Like, whatever's happened in the past has happened, but we got to do what's best for the industry. That is my personal opinion. I'm not speaking for anyone else. That is my personal opinion. I care too much about it, and I believe we have to make changes.
Jeremiah, has anybody from a larger conference among the Power Fours, or let's say a Notre Dame, has any of those ADs or anyone like that that's in the same profession as you ever walked up to you and told you to keep your mouth shut?
No. You know, I'm sure, you know, my tweet was probably, you know, based on who shared it. You know, I could tell who appreciated it and maybe who didn't. But it's not personal. You know, I don't blame anyone. I get it. That's how the system, you know, it's kind of like Scott, you know, people are getting on him for the decision he made. And look, at the end of the day, he operated within the rules. That's not his fault. And if anything, people are upset that he beat him to the punch, you know, but that doesn't necessarily mean we should continue down that road. You know, it means there aren't rules there and there aren't guardrails, and we have to define the expectations or they will be defined for us. And that is something that continues to happen. So if I've upset people, you know, yeah, like, it's not personal, you know, this is business, and I want what's best. And, you know, maybe I'm way out on that limb, and maybe that limb breaks for me, Smoak. I don't know, but I care too much, and I feel I have a duty, a responsibility, you know, to speak my mind, and you know, because I don't want to get 5-10 years from now and say, well, I should have said this or could have said that. You know, I take my responsibility seriously, and I absolutely love these kids. I see the impact we have. I see the impact we have in my community. We just did an economic impact study, $350 million a year. I mean, that's real, and it impacts jobs. And I don't know, right now we need wartime generals. We need people to stand up and speak their mind and make decisions that are in the overall best interest of those we serve. And I believe that, and, you know, maybe that will be my downfall, but that's in God's hands.
So when all this started with COVID, and you're at the time you're at Baylor before you moved to Boise State, but when all this started with COVID, and then in the spring hits, and of course they shut down the men's basketball tournament and everything else, and then they start giving away years of eligibility like it's candy. And I understand, but even some schools who had played 30-something games in basketball, they were given the opportunity, players, to get an extra year of eligibility. I never understood that because they were already in the tournament. And then there was another year, and then you had NIL, and then you had the transfer portal. What are these meetings like? I hate committees. I'm telling you, I hate meetings more than I hate committees. But does anything ever really get accomplished, Jeremiah, in these meetings, or is it just a bunch of guys getting together for a convention that's on the university and everybody just shares stories?
No, I have so much respect for the ADs in our industry. And, I think there are a lot of ADs that truly care and they want solutions. I think about Danny White at Tennessee, and he's been vocal, and he's in one of those conferences, that maybe has a competitive advantage. And I think it shows you where his heart is. And, I think people are trying. I think there are really good conversations, but we are in a very bureaucratic industry, and it's led by groupthink and fear. And I look at, Smoak, the least surprising thing in the history of college athletics is at some point we were going to have to pay student athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's been a topic of conversation since I got into the industry. But if we have to make decisions. And if we're unable to make decisions and these decisions are forced upon us, this is what's going to happen. We can't get ahead of the game. And what I'm proposing is, let's get ahead. Yeah, we're going to get sued. We're getting sued now. Are we having the impact that we want? Are we teaching our student athletes what's right and what's best? Are we truly representing the institutions that I'm so honored to represent in my case? I don't think so. We have something in our department. We will define the expectations, or they will be defined for us. And we're going to make quick decisions. It's ready, aim, fire. And we're not always going to make the right decision, but it allows every decision and movement creates opportunity. And as soon as we maybe miss on something, we can pivot and keep going. Right now, we're in this purgatory, and decisions are being made for us by the courts and others. And now this is the hand we're holding. We have to stop it. We have to stop digging. We have to create a foundation and build off of it. It's not going to be easy, and it's not going to happen overnight, but we will get there. And we will, at minimum, find something that doesn't work so we can keep going. And that's where the proposals are coming from, and my thoughts in general. We have it. We have the ability. We all know what we're doing, and we know why it's not working. So let's stop it, and let's figure out something that does work. And that requires leaders. And we need leaders to step up right now.
A couple of more questions, Jeremiah. Thank you very much. ESPN Seth Greenberg will join us in the next segment on many things that you've talked about, also what's going on with college athletics and basketball. If, in fact, can you see, is it a matter of time, is it imminent that the G5 or G6 teams will not be a part of the college football playoff anywhere in the near future?
Yeah, I see that, based on what's been said, I see that that's the direction that some may want it to go. But I can assure you, Smoak, I will fight tooth and nail. And I know a lot of other ADs and, at my level, if you want to call it that, would fight as well. We're all under the FBS umbrella. We all represent our student athletes in those communities we serve. And I think that access to the CFP and to a national championship, whatever anyone thinks, whether it's realistic or not, I think that's important to our fan bases. And but yeah, you can see, I don't believe in coincidences. And I look at what's happening, and it just shows you the lack of unity that I'm speaking of. And in terms of where we sit today, and I don't. I remember it was probably 2 years ago. There was an AD and, at a Power 4, and they specifically mentioned, what you guys should do is go do your own thing. And I understand why. And I understand that's maybe the path of least resistance, but I'm a fighter, and I believe in what we represent, and I'm gonna continue to fight for that. And I do believe we're a Power 5 institution, and I believe there's a lot that's wrong with our industry. I believe there's a lot that's right. And it's worth fighting for.
Well, they wanted you enough to where they wanted you to split the fee with a house settlement, but maybe not enough to want you to be able to help decide championships at the highest level. At least that's the way it seems. Last thing, Doug McNamee, the new director of athletics at Baylor. You knew Doug, a young guy, when you were first at Baylor before you went to Boise. Obviously, it was a very difficult, weird, awkward time for Baylor when Mac Rose was no longer the AD. What are your thoughts? And did they call you at all, just being honest, about being at Baylor? And what were your thoughts when you heard Doug McNamee was probably the guy?
Yeah, I don't speak publicly about, the jobs that are out there. What I will tell you is it's going to take something really special to pull me out of Boise. I absolutely love it, and I love Bronco Nation, and I love my team, most importantly, and the student athletes I serve. And so I'm very honored to be at Boise State. And I can't say enough about Doug. My friendship with him has grown over the years, and was fortunate to work with him, I think, for about a year when I was at Baylor, and have stayed in touch with him since he got out of the industry. And we have some mutual friends in Idaho. And so I was really, really proud of him and happy for him and his family. I know that was his dream job. I remember him telling me about that when I was there with him. And I know what that feels like, to maybe accomplish your ultimate goal. And Doug's going to kill it. I think he's going to do a great job. And, my prayers are with him, because, I still, to this day, we text, and he's, I think, embracing the chaos just like I am. And I wish him and that team many blessings ahead. I absolutely love that staff and those that are still remaining from when I was there. And I think very highly of them, and I think he has a great team, and I'm really excited to see what he does. And I can't say enough nice things about Doug. And I think that staff and those coaches and student athletes should be grateful they have someone who's a Bear and who absolutely loves that institution and is going to represent it at the highest level.
Hey, don't quit the fight. Don't ever give it up. I'm not trying to do a Jim Valvano speech, because that was more obviously much different because of what he was fighting. But don't ever give up what you believe in at Boise State and also in college athletics. And let me know anytime you have something else you want to share, Jeremiah. Happy holidays, and thanks for your time today.
Thank you, guys. Many blessings ahead in 26. I appreciate the opportunity, and go Broncos.
All right, Jeremiah Dicki, Director of Athletics at Boise State University, with us on 365 Sports. I invited Seth Greenberg, who was a phenomenal analyst for college basketball, and I just love listening to him. We've had him on. He started coming on quite a bit during the run Baylor made back a few years ago when they won the national title. He and a lot of people in college basketball and college athletics on the story when Baylor announced the signing of James Nnaji, who 3 years ago was drafted into the NBA, a G League player, 21-year-old that Baylor's playing right now in the last non-conference game before starting Big 12 play. And it was like, what? And I got to tell you, when I first saw this story, I went, can you do that? Well, apparently you can. It all depends on who you are, and Seth Greenberg, with his expertise, insight, and knowledge and experience, joins us. When you first saw Seth, thank you, happy holidays. When you first saw the story that Scott and Baylor were signing him, what was your reaction?
Well, I actually saw what happened in Oklahoma the day before, and then obviously I saw the situation with Scott, and Scott's a dear friend. The way I thought is right now, the trading deadline, I guess, is the first day classes start the second semester, because that's what we've created, a trading deadline. And the trading deadline is opened up to former professional players. Obviously, we've had it in the European game, but now we're having guys that actually put their name in a draft and got drafted, 31st pick for your guy. And I don't believe in mid-semester eligibility. I don't believe in renting players. I don't believe in, and look, the rule's the rule. And I do not begrudge Scott for what he's doing, and I understand why. We've traded text messages today, and I think the world of him. But to me, you come to the season, you spend the summer with your team, you spend the fall with your team. You're only as good as your locker room. Those players are part of your family. You bring a guy in basically January, and all of a sudden you just he's going to walk in, and you're going to plug and play him. I just, I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. I don't think it's good for the game. I don't think it's good for the enterprise. I think that we've lost education in the whole process. All these guys that you can have different opinions. I respect everyone's opinion. I mean, that's what makes the world great. I don't begrudge anyone's opinion. But all these guys that put their name in the draft, they put their name in the draft for a reason, because they didn't want to go to school. Let's be honest. And people say, well, it was to make money. Well, I mean, maybe it is to make money. But in the end, they chose. They don't, no one made them do it. They chose that they wanted to go and be professionals. And then they got to that point, and all of a sudden, college basketball changed. And you know what? The agents realized that a guy in a two-way contract doesn't make as much money as a guy that's going to college, where they're getting 20% of the money that they're negotiating. And the agents, probably most times of these kids, are the guys that pushed them from going to college because they wanted a return on whatever investment they made in those players. So, and I'm not saying all agents are bad, because I would never paint a broad brush on anyone. But I just think, to me, we're sending such a bad message. And you can call me Pollyanna, what? 35 years I coached, 35 years, 22 as a head coach, right? Like, education was important to me. Like, the most sideways I ever got with players was not on a missed shot or a missed assignment. It was on a missed class. And I didn't have all Rhodes Scholars and all that thing. I worked at tough places and had tough guys. But the one thing I knew I could do when I sat in the living room is I said, I will never cheat your son. All right. And there'll be accountability. And if they don't do what they're supposed to do academically, you know what? There's going to be a consequence. So, hey, more power to people that are doing it. I don't think long term you build a culture and an identity doing this, but I understand the pressures that's on coaches. And there's a void in people's rosters, whether it's Baylor's or Oklahoma's or Louisville's or anyone else's, and everyone does what they're comfortable doing.
Seth Greenberg, ESPN. We're not right now, but we do have a couple of comments from Scott from yesterday when he was asked about his conversation with Tom Izzo. Do you have the graphic on the quote, Garrett, from Tom Izzo? I'm a little surprised. This was on the Nnaji signing.
I talked to Tom that day.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that was Tom Izzo. He did reach out to Scott. They did talk. Scott brought that up yesterday, that they had a conversation. And even Scott admitted that he at first was against this type of signing, and then mentioned that his job is to win games, that he's paid to win games. Then there's going to be some that go, well, that doesn't mean you have to do it. What would you say if you spoke with Scott?
I did. I text back and forth to Scott today. Yeah. And look, I understand where he's coming from. And like, these are the rules or lack of rules. And this is the opportunity that presented itself. And he does have an obligation, he feels, to the university and to his program. And being that he's not breaking a rule, he doesn't feel like, he feels like he's just taking advantage of the rule. And I do believe, like, the coaching of agility is really important today. Yeah, we're living in the ever-changing world of college athletics, and you've got to have agility. Tom Izzo and I are dear friends. I argue all the time with him. I said, Tom, here's the deal: do what you're comfortable doing. That's it, and stop complaining about it. Pour yourself into the team and do what you're comfortable doing. If you don't feel like you're comfortable doing X, Y, and Z, then don't do it. You know that you'll figure out a way, because that's how that's what you do. But I don't begrudge Scott at all. Like I said, I have so much respect for him. Me personally, if I was put in that situation, look, I've been fired. I get it. I just, like, to me, we are absolutely screwing the high school players, except for the top 50 or 75 high school players. We're absolutely screwing them. Because people are looking in the portal, they're looking internationally, they're looking for the G League. And every time they do that, they're taking away an opportunity for a young kid that, busted his tail and it maybe has a chance to be good. I really believe if an AD at a good mid-major would hire me, I would kick everyone's tail, because I would just recruit high school kids. And I'd find the guys that everyone's passing on to take a kid in the portal who you're probably overpaying for. And a lot of those guys under-deliver. There are some guys that deliver, but a lot of guys will under-deliver. Just because you're paying a guy $1 million doesn't guarantee you're going to win. Look what happened to K-State. Look what happened with Washington last year. They both paid players $2 million. All right? What did they do? So, look, like I said, I have so much respect for Scott and what he's done and what he's accomplished and what he's built. And I understand where he's coming from. I do. Everyone's got to do what they're like, just like I tell Tom, everyone's got to do what they're comfortable doing.
Seth, does a degree anymore mean anything? It does to a lot.
Yeah, it does. What do you mean? Wait a second. Not only does a degree mean something, but being on a college campus for 3 or 4 years and the people you meet, all right, that can open up doors for your future, that means something. I'll tell you what else it means. It means that, like, to me, you have somewhere to go back to instead of going to 4 different schools in 4 years or 3 different schools in 3 years and jumping place to place to place. You're going to have a roadblock and a detour in your life. That's just the way it is. Life is not a straight line. All right, road success is always under construction. The roadblocks and detours along the way. How you navigate those roadblocks and detours determine the success of the quality of your life. But also having people to rely on. I'm a big believer everyone needs a mentor. If you're going to 4 schools in 4 years, or 3 schools in 4 years, how are you going to find that support system? How are you going to find that mentor? Where do you go back? Where do you take your kids to go back to? All right. What are you a part of? So that's me. Now, I'm not saying I'm right. And I'm not saying if someone disagrees with me, they're wrong. That's just the way it is. And the people say, well, there's no value in a college education. The college experience, there's a value. Plain and simple. And a college education, surely there's a value, because if you take that education and you develop a network while you're on that campus and you meet people, which being a college athlete enables you to meet, you start off, 1, you're not in debt. 2, you have a network of contacts that can open up doors for you to help you be successful when the ball is taken away from you. So, and I apologize for being short, but I get a kick. I wouldn't be where I am today without a college education.
Well, and I wouldn't be doing this. Maybe just talent alone. Sometimes people can become broadcasters. My degree allowed me to go to a local TV station in 1981, and here I am 44 and a half years later. But that degree I received made a difference. Perhaps the question would be, do you feel like parents of these players, the agents, do they care about a college degree?
Look, I don't want to speak for parents. I would hope they do. The agents care about 20%. Right? Yeah, I mean, most of them. No, they're good agents, but most of them first of all, agents charging 20% on name, image, pay for play, which is what it is. Let's stop calling it name, image, and likeness. This is not Oprah where everyone gets a TV. All right. I mean, like, very few people have. Yeah, you can get a sandwich deal, or maybe free gas or whatever. But let's be honest. Not everyone can be an influencer. It just doesn't work that way. But yeah, I think that we've lost. You know what? What we've devalued education is what we've done. We've really devalued it. And like the days of bringing your recruits in to meet the academic coordinators and people in your major. What we're going to have is, and look, you guys know this. Say a kid's at Baylor's making 600,000, so that's probably 350, 400 after taxes. Is that pretty close? All right, so that's 400. You buy a car, that's 300. You take your family maybe quits their job. Who knows what happens then? You're flying family to all your road games. You're doing all these other things. This is not, unless you have smart people paying your taxes and managing your money and putting you on a budget. Like, yeah, this is more money. And I understand this is more money than a lot of people will see in their lifetime. And I have no problem with players getting market, whatever that market value is. What I have a problem with is they can't be mutual. You can have both, but you've got to have some accountability. And if you want to have contracts, then have buyouts. I changed job 3 times. I know everyone. Well, coaches can go anywhere, and every time I change jobs, I paid a buyout. Pay a buyout. Right? I've been at School X. I've been at Baylor for the last year. I signed a 2-year deal. They've given me X, Y, and Z. At School Y wants my services, and I want to go there. Here's the deal: either they got to pay my buyout, which works against their collective, or I got to pay my buyout. That's what happens when people work in the real world. How about let me ask you guys this: name me another professional organization, because that's what we have. We're professional sports now. Have semester to semester, year to year free agency.
Say that again. I'm sorry. It broke up for just a second.
Name me another professional sport. That's what we are right now, is professional sports. When you're having 5 and 6 and 7 and 10 and $22 million if you're Kentucky rosters, where you have year-to-year free agency.
No, you don't, unless you suck. Unless you cut, and then you're
all right. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you, in the NBA, there are certain trade deadlines, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And there are certain times that you can do things. We don't have any of those rules.
No, there are no rules, and if they try to enforce them, they get sued.
All right. So now you have players who went to the NBA or tried to go to the NBA, didn't make it, and they want to now say, wait a second, all right, I can make more money here in the States in college, so I want my cake and eat it too. I chased my dream, but now I want to go back. Look, I'm all for guys who want to get an education. My concern is it's so unrealistic right now that you have these young people that are, and Calipari did a really good thing on it the other day. They're making this real money, and then they're not NBA players, and they don't have a degree, and they're going overseas, and they're making $60,000, and that first month's check comes in for $6,000, and they go like, "Well, where's my car? Where's my meal ticket? Where's my apartment? Where's my this? Where's my that?" And you know what you have, and then you're gonna have that player coming back from overseas, because if you don't win, you get sent home. And you talk about a potential mental health issue. That's a potential mental health issue. And we all know, all of us at some point have lived above our means. When you're throwing this kind of money at these young people, if they don't learn to manage your money correctly, I feel for it. I really do. I mean, maybe I've been at it for 14 years, but I live it each and every day, and I dearly care about the kids. And that's just the way I've always been. And I care about the game, and I care about the enterprise. And right now, it's ass backward.
Yeah, it is one of the things that I've always asked, and I've asked Scott or whoever, how do you even keep up with whether somebody is even compliant with towards a degree with all the changes? I don't know how you do it. I don't.
I do. I met every single Monday with my academic coordinator every single Monday at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I went over every assignment that was due that week, and every test that was received. I got a sheet every single day, and we knew exactly where our guys were in terms of academic progress every day. And because what I found out, if it's important to me, it's important to them. So now this is professional sports. All right, the only thing that counts is winning, and academics are important. Well, they're not going to be important to me. They're not going to be important to my guys. Plain and simple.
The evaluation process, my last question, and Seth, thank you for your time. Love your passion and what this game means and what you're trying to do and communicate. It just seems like no matter what, the NCAA cannot hold water. It's a leaky faucet. Yeah, it really is. It's very sad. Is there anything? Is collective bargaining the only answer? If you could just wave that magic wand, what would it be?
I think collective bargaining. I think contracts. I think that if you're going to transfer, that buyouts, I mean, like real contracts. We need real contracts. And I also think retention of the players you have in your program, because I think retention is so important. I think that should not work against the salary cap. So therefore, there was a motivation for players to stay, which is going to help these young people stay on track to graduate, which is going to give them at least a better opportunity when the ball stops bouncing. But we need contracts. We need buy. And here's the other thing: we have some contracts. Here's the problem: guys are afraid to enforce the contracts because they're afraid that the agents will turn and say, "Wait a second, you enforced that contract. You took money. You find that guy X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to send you any more guys. You're too hard on my guys. Pardon you guys. We're trying to make them held accountable, because once their talent is void.
Mm-hmm.
Once their talent is void, you know what? They're going to have to show up at work at 7 o'clock in the morning. They're going to have to stay till 5 o'clock. And if they don't do a job, they're going to be let go. There's going to be an accountability. And you know what? The same thing with when they get married. All right. So, like, to me, what are we teaching? What are we teaching these people in this unrealistic world that they're living in? I'm saying, And like I said, I have no problem paying. That's not the issue. But too much is given, much is expected. But if you're going to get paid, then there's got to be an expectation, and it's got to be a two-way street. If there isn't, then we are living in an absolute fantasy land.
Oh, a chaos in fantasy land. Absolutely. Hey, man, you're a good dude. Appreciate your times. I hope next time we get you on, we'll discuss X's and O's and who's good.
Let's talk some ball. Hey, look, I'm happy for Scott. Like I said, I'm a big fan of his and how he coaches his team and players he develops, and I know how much he cares.
Thank you, Seth Greenberg, ESPN, with us on 365 Sports. So that's Seth Greenberg in the interview with we just had live. And again, if you you look back and how much, here's the thing, can it be enforced? So you have I've told, I don't know who's watching today, if you've heard me tell this story before, but a high school football player who was committed to a certain school in college, an FBS school, a Power 5 school, is committed to that school and already getting paid, already getting amenities, already getting paid, ends up decommitting the week before National Signing Day and then gets paid by somebody else and perhaps amenities for he and his family or she and her family. So then my question is, like what Seth just said, I was going to share this with him, but with what Seth just said, so you're paying a young man or woman you're paying them, whatever you want to call it. And then all of a sudden they decommit and they sign with somebody else. Who are you going to bitch to? Who are you going to complain to? You've been paying them before they signed with you. And I don't even know the rules, or are there any rules? And then that person ends up getting basically double dipping, and yet you need to pay this athlete, high school athlete, money to get them to play for you. And then they decommit and somebody else is paying them. They might end up with 2 or 3 times more. Maybe legitimately they just wanted to change, but they're getting, so who are you going to, hey, can somebody get the NCAA on line 1? Hey, we were paying this young athlete before he signed with us. Money, lots of it. Oh, by the way, we also got his mom a car and we got him a house. How are you can't. That's how screwed up it is too. I don't know how often that is. I don't know how rampant that is. I don't know, but it happened. It has happened. I know it's happened. It's happening. And we just went through the National Signing Day with football. And then, of course, in April, there's a lot of other things. It's just like you just want to know sometimes, how can this continue? But guess what? It is, and I don't see anywhere where it's going to end in sight. I really don't. Now, when we come back, we have Phil Bennett will join us at the top of the hour at 5. But when we come back, I'm going to summarize what Scott Drew said yesterday. And we're going to have him tomorrow, too, to discuss the opening of the Big 12. Baylor's playing in a non-conference game. They're winning by like 50, 69-33 at halftime against Arlington Baptist. And I'm going to get into the young man and whose name is attached to this story about how can they do that? Is that fair? Oh, my God, Scott Drew, you don't care. And then let's get into really, does anyone even know if this young man can play the game and make a difference? Or are everybody just reacting because he's 7 feet tall? He's been in the G League, Garrett, 3 years? This is not Carmelo Anthony. This is not Kevin Durant. It is a young man that can help him, no doubt, with the weaknesses Baylor has. But I saw this immediately. You've now become the most hated basketball program in America. No, that's always going to be someone like Duke, right? When we come back, 365 Sports. By the way, we have a super chat. We'll get to that, too. Special thanks to Andrew Valade and Garrett Ross for being a part of what we're doing today. And this is 365 Sports. Business owners, this is a great opportunity for you. I got a whole bunch of junk mail, and I was going through my junk email. All of a sudden, this is not because, but Alan Samuels, I got an email from David Gray, runs the entire sales department, Ted Teague, CEO, and general manager, and I'm like, oh my God, this is good because this is for the last few days of the year. Take advantage of the Section 179 at Allen Samuels. You may be able to deduct the full purchase price of qualifying trucks, vans, and SUVs by the end of this week, by the end of the year. Save big on taxes, work-ready trucks to heavy-duty commercial vehicles, what your business needs. But don't wait because Section 179 ends at midnight on December 31st, which, of course, is coming up on Wednesday. Allen Samuels, where service is the difference. Oh, man, they have a bunch of other great SUVs and Ram trucks and Jeep and all that. For you, if you just want to go get the best vehicle as an end-of-the-year gift to you or to somebody else. But if you're a business person and you want to try to get something in under the deadline of December 31st, you can do that. Ask about the Section 179. The votes are in. Motor Trend Truck of the Year. It seems like it's every year. Almost like when Brady and the Patriots were winning all the Super Bowls. The all-new Ram 1500, built tough, loaded with power, ready for whatever the state of Texas brings your way. Motor Trend Truck of the Year at Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin. And you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
This is 365 Sports.
All right, so Seth Greenberg, thank you. And a lot of you that make comments, whoever our guest, JD, Jeremiah Dicki, Boise State, Phil Bennett around the corner, Seth Greenberg, appreciate his passion. What I do get a kick out of sometimes is if you agree with him, you love it. If you disagree with him, you're like I've even seen, we've been given what people may think are or what they think are our best guess, but man, if they disagree, it happens. And really, one of the things that we, in my opinion, need to do a better job of, like I even was talked down a little bit, I was able to take some of the responses from earlier today or last night about if an SEC team loses a bowl game. I was like, man, it's okay if there are legitimate reasons and excuses, but just don't make them up all the time. Like every time you lose or something. And then some started getting feedback. We started having the same opinions on a lot of stuff. But, man, we are not in an age anymore where if you disagree with somebody, you may not have gone to see somebody during Christmas because of it, with sometimes what's happening. So, the story, James Nnaji. He was drafted 3 years ago, the 2023 NBA draft by the Pistons. His rights were then traded to Charlotte, later to the Knicks. He's from Nigeria. He was ranked as the 24th best prospect in ESPN's top 100. Baylor signs him. It's not against NCAA rules. It's not against anything other than if you just want to think that, well, we wouldn't do that. So I reached out to a handful of college basketball coaches and even one or two others that I've known that were. And I said, tell me what your take is on Baylor signing James Nnaji. And one of them was like, that's just this. It's a bad look. And then everybody else was, well, let me tell you this. If I was running the basketball team and I know what Baylor's weakness is, I'm getting somebody who's inside to help me get some rebounds, block shots, and maybe an enforcer. This guy, this young kid, who's going to be now like this poster child of, oh, my God, seems to be a pretty good young man based on what Scott was saying about his upbringing and all that. Okay, that doesn't mean you have to sign him, but Scott does mention it. But one of the things that I know is that this is not somebody who's going to average 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 block shots a game. He's going to fill a role that Baylor needs inside, plus some of the injuries they've dealt with, and Scott signed him. And he might be the nicest kid in the world, but I saw, well, you're the most hated college basketball player ever. No, stop it. Because the coaches who responded to me, one of them said he wouldn't have done it. All the others said, yeah, I'd probably bitch and moan because I didn't get him first. I didn't like it because I got lazy and just thought he wasn't available. So here's Scott Drew on James Nnaji and responding to Tom Izzo, who said he was disappointed. He thought he had talked to Scott and he would, and they did. Seth Greenberg talked to Scott earlier today. I love the fact they're communicating. Here's Scott Drew.
First, Coach Izzo and I are friends. I got a lot of respect for him. Great conversation. As he said, most coaches are 99% aligned on things that we would like to see done with our game. At the same time, from my knowledge, until we get to collective bargaining, I don't think we can come up with rules that are agreeable or enforceable. And until that, I think all of us are got to be ready to adjust and adapt to what's out there. Early on, when it first came out with G League players, I wasn't in favor of that either. But again, we don't make the rules, and as we find out about things, we're always going to adapt to put our program in the best position to be successful, because that's what we get paid to do.
All right, that's okay. That's fine. That's fine. Now, do you have the tweet from Eric Haslam? Garrett, it's at Haslam Metrics. I think, okay, here it is. Listen to this. So this was after the decision. Baylor signs Nnaji. Eric is not blasting Baylor. He's blasting the system. But look at this tweet. This kind of blank absolutely needs to occur if anything is going to change. In other words, what he's saying is because of this decision, these are the kind of decisions you need for the dam to break, to like maybe wake some people up. Well, we've heard that before when we hear about someone who drinks and drives and then they kill somebody else or they kill themselves and they're like, well, you got to learn from this. Do we? If anything is going to change, I've long said the faster we arrive at the absurd, the faster common sense will finally be obligated to correct the situation. Unfortunately, I don't think we've yet arrived at peak absurdity. And so that's from Eric Haslam from Haslam Analytics Metrics, his thoughts about this. Because, yeah, a lot of people that clutch their pearls, oh, my God, but you can do it. Just like you can do things in college sports pretty much up and down whatever you want. Like when the young lady, a great player from Stanford, signed with Tech. Oh, my God. But had she signed with Oklahoma or had signed with someone else, it would have been, okay, it's NIL. It's part of the deal. But it was Tech. Remember that? Now, they didn't win the national championship, but they played for it. And UT won it. But It's kind of you pick and choose. Oh, this isn't fair. No, you can't do that. All right, so there we are with that. When we come back, Phil Bennett, by the way, tonight at 10:30, 365 Sports Tonight. And if, in fact, you did not, because we were out Wednesday and Thursday, I sat down with one of the great businessmen in ever, and Drayton McLean Jr. on Tuesday of last week down in Temple, thanks to Ben Dvorak, and we recorded 25 minutes or so about college athletics, about business, about him as an entrepreneur, about how he handled buying the Astros for like $110 million and sold them for 600 and some million. And is there any comparison with being a part of a college, of what we have now in college compared to what he experienced as an owner of a professional team? And a lot of other things, including his thoughts about the future of college athletics. He brought up Cody Campbell at Texas Tech and more. That is up on our channel, 365 Sports, and hope you get a chance. If you have not seen it, it's on the reel. Garrett put it together, or Ben put it together. Garrett then put it together to put up on the channel. We ran that on Friday at 3, and would love to get your feedback on that. This is 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas marketplace off I-35 in Waco with Dr. Rob Maxey, who's one of the owners and partners who said they want to accomplish a couple of things. One, they want to run a business. Yeah, he's a doctor. He wanted to run a business, but also give patients like you and me a chance to find out why certain times or a specific injury that you've never been able to really get an answer to. Your doctor needs better look at MRI, and they have state-of-the-art imaging machine at Ideal MRI. I have told this story. Some of you have shared your stories. I heard from John Peterson. I know others who have had problems with your back, whether it's in your cervical, upper neck, or down at the lower part of your back. And then some of that gnarly stuff or a disc or something that's just not right can create problems in your hip, your legs, elsewhere. Get it and get a good look. I have been inside the machine 4 different times. Twice for my back, once for my shoulder, because I had rotator cuff surgery in 2015, and it was just to get like, okay, let's look, mate. And then one time because of what I was dealing with my abdomen and prostate removal. And that one was great because when I got it back, everything was clear, even though I did get my prostate removed. I tell you guys that story because it's true. And so the MRI machine was able to make sure there was nothing else anywhere else it shouldn't have been. And the prostate was removed in May of 2024, and everything has been clear since that time. They will help you find the answer or what's going on, and if it's not there, then there's another way you can look at it, but it gives your doctor what he needs to give you the right diagnosis, and here's the best part. Not only you get the evidence, but it's $497 or less every single time, and the average MRI is $1,100 at IdealMRI.com.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics, whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. At TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, Your Bank for Life.
UBO Business Services. We are a studies-based service organization that is the best in Texas when it comes to copiers, printers, and scanners. The way we quantify that is through a company used by millions of corporations called Net Promoter Score. What Net Promoter Score looks at are your Google reviews. We have a better Net Promoter Score than H-E-B with a 65 and Ritz-Carlton Hotels with a 70. According to Net Promoter Score, if you're a 70 or above, you're considered world-class in customer service. UBO Business Services is an 86 when it comes to Net Promoter Score. You can find us at ubeo.com, ubeo.com. BatersPlus.com.
What does being different mean to me? You know, that is an interesting question.
Because there really isn't one way. There's a bunch of different ways you could do it.
This is the Sonos Arc Ultra, and this is what you need to know about. It represents one of the easiest ways to get into high-quality home cinema without loads of cables and faffing around. And that's because the Arc Ultra provides full Dolby Atmos without any rear speakers thanks to its sound motion technology. And Sonos is actually calling sound motion one of the most significant breakthroughs in audio engineering in nearly 100 years. It's an amazing setup, it sounds absolutely fantastic. I love the absence of fat. If you're a Sonos person, there's a reason you're watching this video.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
This is 365 Sports.
365 Sports, we start this 5 o'clock hour. Hope you've had a great break at Christmas. We were able to take a couple of days off Wednesday and Thursday, and then also we'll do the same thing this week. We'll be here today. Craig joins me tomorrow, and we'll be, I believe, on the air Friday to look back at the quarterfinal round games. And our great friend, it's too cold to be out in that man cave.
No question.
Yeah, that's and you look nice and cozy. Is that your kitchen nook right there where you're at?
Yeah, that's my study in the front.
Yep. Okay. Well, happy holidays, Phil. Thank you so much.
Guys.
So let's look at the 4 quarterfinal round games. Let's start with that. Ohio State, Michigan, the biggest spread is 10.5 or so points with the Buckeyes. Their defense has obviously still been really good despite Indiana beating them. Your thoughts about Miami? Can they carry over what they did against A&M? Because their defense is pretty salty too.
I truly believe that their defense can match up with Ohio State. I don't look for Ohio. You know, if you look at what Ohio State did against Indiana, they didn't play great on offense. And it could be another low-scoring game. I do believe that they've got more weapons than what A&M did at wide receiver. But Salin is going to have to play well and get the ball to his receivers for them to beat Miami.
Yeah, that game with Indiana. And okay, so then we'll go to Indiana. They play Alabama. Alabama with the huge comeback to beat Oklahoma. And yet you still know there's some that don't give Indiana much credit, or should, and they don't. Or maybe they just still don't believe in them. But what Cignetti's done is incredible. And they're so underrated, Phil, on defense. Why are they so good on defense when the offense gets most of the attention?
Smoak, the thing that I see them defensively is them and Texas Tech are two of the fastest, hardest defenses I see playing. I mean, they have guys, I don't believe they're 4 stars or 5 stars, but they're technicians, they're athletic, and they really do a good job of pressuring the quarterback. You know, they're both teams, Ohio State and Indiana, in the game that they played, they pressured each other a bunch, which is a little bit different than in Big Ten games. And this Coach Haynes at Indiana has done a hell of a job of getting them and letting them be aggressive.
I still remember last year when they had the nice start and people still weren't sure, and then they just crushed Matt Rule in Nebraska and made him look silly. And then, of course, the win against Ohio State. What is it, the quarterback play last year, this year, Mendoza, he wins the Heisman. It seems like what is a simple play, a back shoulder fade to wide receivers on out routes, they run that about as well as I've seen. How is that, and why is that hard to defend?
You know, I have a tie there. Mike Shanahan, the offensive coordinator, played for us at Pitt. And Mike was the master of the back shoulder fade. He is 6'5", and if you notice, Indiana's receivers are big, and especially the number 80 who made the catches. It's a timing throw, and it's hard for a defensive back. You're always telling him, get through the face, get through the eyes, try to break it up when you're playing that. And when the receiver is going away from you, it's hard. And you know what? Offensive guys know that there's either they're going to get a catch or a chance they're going to get an interference.
Well, okay, Indiana just beat Ohio State recently. Do they care about the name Alabama as their opponent this week?
I think Kurt has done a really good job of saying, hey, numbers, colors, mascots don't matter to us. And watching them play the way they played at Penn State, they beat Penn State on the road. They played, Indiana. It was, of course, Indiana played Ohio State. It was in Indianapolis, but my God, they played with just fearless. I mean, they were fearless on both sides of the ball. Now, could somebody match up with them and give them problems? Yeah, they could. Ohio State's wideouts. I don't care if you're the Green Bay Packers. They are really good players. So it's going to be an interesting game. Alabama will be better. Alabama's receivers, the freshman, number 5, Williams, number 2, they will challenge them. It's just whether they can be consistent in it.
Yeah, Williams seems to have faded a little bit. I don't know if it's doghouse or what, but because it was Jeremiah Smith, oh my goodness, how just drooling with unbelievable talent, speed, angles, and all that. And then Ryan Williams, there was a debate about who was the best freshman wide receiver, but you haven't heard much about Ryan Williams.
He's had, if you remember the Oklahoma game, he dropped 2 huge plays when they were behind. I just have a feeling that this game, the Alabama-Indiana game, will be a really, really good game.
All right. I will get to eventually Matt Campbell, Penn State. I'm going to get to Whittingham and Michigan. We'll do that in a minute. But we have the game between Georgia and Ole Miss, which is the 4th of all the games coming up in the college football playoff. I got to tell you, I don't know how often you've ever spoken or been around Kirby Smart. He's somewhat psychotic. He's really good. Remember, he said nobody believed we were going to beat TCU when nobody ever said they weren't going to beat TCU. Yeah. He has a way, and they have Phil about 5 or 6 games into the season, not because they lost to Alabama. I just didn't there was something missing, but they will sledgehammer your ass to death on both sides of the ball.
I read an article today that he was defending Mike Bobo. Mike Bobo has been the MVP of Georgia football. He's taken an average quarterback, 2 average running backs, a line that wasn't supposed to be that good, and they have got better and better and better. And what they have done, they have allowed their this game they're about to play, the first time they played, David, it was back-to-back touchdowns for I think it was 34, and finally Georgia broke the serve of Ole Miss, and they won the game. I think it was 43-38. But he said in this article, he said in years past, we would not have been able to win a game like that, where our defense had to get stops, and we weren't stopping them. And he was defending Mike Bobo and how they have played, and he was adamant. He's saying this might be the best coaching job we've done.
Yeah, they scored 17 points to close it out. Georgia did, being down at one point by a touchdown. I love Ole Miss's quarterback, Chambliss. I like their team. Lacey, the running back. They have explosive ability. They were able to get that game under their belt with obviously Pete Golding.
Right.
And Weiss was a part of that too. How much does that help as they move forward? Because obviously this is a very evenly matched game.
I think that the Sugar Bowl is going to be an exciting game. Just like you said, Chambliss creates so many defensive issues. He extends plays. Ole Miss's receivers are very good, and they're not talked about very much. And obviously defensively, Bobo did a really nice job, 650 yards, 43 points the last time. There could be a lot of points scored in this game that night.
So I don't even know this. I should know this. Garrett is an LSU guy. Is that staff? Are they still with Ole Miss?
Yes.
Are they there the rest of the way?
Yeah. They're going through. There's I think 5 of them that are offensive staff guys.
That's good.
That are still with them. Now, only one that I think's not with them is Kiffin's younger or older brother.
Yeah, I thought that was the case, and I haven't heard much about that. It was pretty seamless with what they did.
I sort of liked Pete after the game. He said, he threw a few jabs out there.
Yeah, directed right at Lane Kiffin.
He said, Charlie called this game just like he did the last game.
Yeah, because if Ole Miss had blown a tire and they had not performed well at offense, it was Charlie Weiss Jr.'s offense.
That's right.
Without Kiffin. But it was good that they went out and took
it. You've got to remember, Jeff Levy was the offensive coordinator and Randy Clements with Kiffin. And he doesn't call plays. He will make an occasional suggestion. And that's why Charlie, that's why Pete wanted Charlie back. He didn't care. Lane's going to watch the game just like he would if he was on the sideline. And he even said that.
Yeah, no, and of course now he's trying to help LSU figure out how they're going to he'll be fine. They'll get who they need with their roster for next year. Oregon and Tech. Texas Tech, still, you look at this name because of the fact they had never won a Big 12 title, never played for one, and it's still, there's some that don't believe in what Joey and company have, which is a fantastic defense. You mentioned their team speed. Oregon, that's what they're known for, is speed. And they could play pretty good defense, too. Your thoughts about what Shieldwood will do with Tech against that Oregon offense?
I think number one, he'll be challenged. Dante Moore is an extending quarterback. He keeps plays alive. But Tech really played, when they played at Utah, and Dampier and Moore, Dante Moore, very similar. I'm telling you, they made him, he couldn't get away. His timing was messed up. I look at Oregon, and there's some concern there because Tosh is putting a staff together at Cal. He's got, he's in Berkeley, he's in Eugene. There's a little bit of an issue there. And I would imagine that Dan is taking over the defense this week.
It's not the same, Phil, that your last year at Baylor in 16 when you played Boise State and won that bowl game because everyone knew everything was changing.
Right.
And Art had been gone since May.
Right.
But what is it like when you have disruption entering a bowl game? And there was not for a national title, but I know what that meant to that team because you started so well, then things fell apart, and you wanted for Jim Grobe and for everybody to finish strong.
And it was a huge game. And I want to tell you something. I just recently on my Facebook, the memories came. How they show those memories of. And there's a picture of Kendall and I getting drenched and Jim. And I remember, we were quite an underdog in that game. And the players really wanted to win because they knew we had some close games after that Texas fiasco.
Yep.
With calling us off the field and telling us that what was going to be done. But yeah, there's a lot of emotion. And I think that you look at Oregon, and you got coaches leaving. He's taken, I think, 3 or 4 of the staff members with him to Cal. So, and I'm not looking to make excuses, but I'm just telling you, I know A&M staff was a little bit, they weren't, a lot of people felt up to par at the Miami game with everything that happened with Colin. And whether it's true or not, it's still hard. I remember this, when I took the SMU job, Bill Snyder told me, you're not coaching against Syracuse in the bowl game. and I didn't.
Well,
and he wasn't mad about it. He just said, "Hey, you got too much on your plate."
yeah, okay. And that was back quite a bit ago. Now things are like, it's just maddening.
Well, it was before internet per se. I mean, now they're asking constantly who you hired, this, that, and you've got instant information.
Yeah, it is. It is amazing. Kyle Whittingham, they have the coach in waiting, Morgan Scally, defensive mind. And I always thought it was kind of awkward because they had the bad year in 24. And then next thing you know, he's walking away. I always felt like and I'm not there, that he was almost pushed out.
He was pushed out. They wanted him to fire him last year after the bad year. And he had to fight to get another year. And his plea, and I'm told from a good source that he said, let me finish my way. And Lord did he. He finished the right way. This is almost, this is justification of who he is and what he's done at Utah.
Well, Michigan was a mess, and they still have major problems, but could they have fallen into something better than they just did with Kyle Whittingham?
He is a football coaching dude. I played him when I was at Pitt, and it was we opened the season with him. I told you it was they were really good. We played in Salt Lake, and they beat us in double overtime with a quarterback named Johnson from Baytown. I think he's from Baytown Lee. And I mean, I played him when I was at Arizona State. We were fortunate enough to beat him out there, but his team is tough. I mean, they were a trademark tough-ass football team on both sides of the ball.
Well, isn't that what Michigan, and most teams would love that, no matter who you are, but isn't that that physical running game between, yes. He's going to run the spread, but with power, like sometimes Baylor used to do. But he seems like he's the perfect fit for them. He's not a Michigan man, but hell, he's, golly, I mean, he's a hell of a coach, like you said.
I think that he's a fit because he's a football guy. He doesn't read the paper. He's not in that, he's not sending tweets out like Lane. I mean, the difference, and don't get me wrong, there's different styles that know how to win. Lane is a guy that wants to be seen. He wants to be noticed. He wants to be listened to. Kyle wants to coach. And Kyle wants to, Kyle will get a group of guys, a group of coaches that will really be involved. And I'm telling you, I can see a quick, flip up there.
He's talked to the quarterback, Underwood, who's a fantastic talent. He's already met with him. He's met with all the players. He's down at the bowl situation with Michigan playing Texas. He appears as if Jay Hill, who's well known,
BYU.
Because he's headed to Michigan with him. How much of a gain is that, and how much of a loss is that for BYU?
It's huge. I thought they did a great job against Georgia Tech yesterday. They have really done a good job, and he's also going to he's going to take his Utah offensive coordinator with him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be huge.
All right, couple of quick hits. Matt Campbell, Penn State. That's another what seems to be a pretty good fit after what they were trying to figure out. He's going to get Lynn, who's a hell of a defensive coach. Your thoughts about that?
That's suspect. Yes, suspect.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that he's losing. Hey, he's losing the guy that he's going to miss the most. He's retired. Heathcock was a real deal.
Oh, that's right. That's right. The guy was out. He was at Iowa State forever.
I like Lynn, but he's got a ton to learn.
Okay.
He's not a guy right now that's going to give you what Jim did.
No, not a 43-year veteran. That's like that's your situation, being in the game. Last thing, Willie Fritz in Houston beat LSU.
Wow.
LSU, of course, coaching transition. And, of course, if an SEC team loses, there's always a reason the bowl games don't matter. But they did have a lot of transition. I thought what Willie did Sean Bell and Brian Bell get promotions. Sean now the assistant head coach. What a freaking story.
I sent Sean a note, and I told him a text message. I said, God, what a night for the Bell brothers and the Bell family.
Yeah, no question.
You know, I tell you, his quarterback did an unbelievable job. I mean, he ran, he passed. And I want to tell you something. LSU and the quarterback was not the original, but they wanted to win that game. And Houston just outplayed them. They sure did.
Yep, and came back from down early and ended up winning the game.
I told you'd get a kick out of this. One of my friends that's a big A&M booster, I texted him. I said, well, Missouri goes down, Virginia, ACC, and I said, and the Houston, Cougar High beats LSU. I said, that SEC is awesome, isn't it? He told me, he said, hey, it wasn't a great year. I said, well, you still got a lot of them in the championship, so we'll see what happens.
Well, at least one's going to the semis because Ole Miss is playing Georgia. Then we'll see.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Hey, man, appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of you. Are you going to be hanging around the house?
Yeah, we'll be here. Be watching games.
All right. You and Julie enjoy it. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Bill Bennett, college football coach, 40-plus years, and with us on Mondays, even when it is the holiday. Appreciate his feedback and also his time. All right. We have a super chat. I saw this flash up. I didn't get to see exactly what it was for. And Kim Coulter, again, $99.99. This super chat is for our fearless leader and today the Lone Ranger. Yeah, I am flying solo, but Andrew and Garrett are both right here with me. Craig sent us an email earlier today. It's traded some text, called him a little bit over the weekend. He should be here tomorrow. And then Friday, we got to discuss that, Garrett, on what we're doing Friday.
We'll figure it out.
We have games to discuss the next day.
Some damn good games to discuss.
Yeah, like 3 of the quarterfinals on the first, and then, of course, another one that's on the night of New Year's Eve. So that's the super chat. And Kim, as always, thank you very much. We appreciate you very much. Here are, what do we have here, Andrew? The quizzes? All right, here we go with the quiz. I've got to do this on my, Garrett, you're going to need to help me out.
I'll help you.
Which of these iconic bowl games is not officially a part of the New Year's Six rotation?
I think I have an
I think it's the Orange Bowl.
I think it's the Citrus Bowl.
All right. All right. First of all, I love the emojis. The Sugar Bowl with a piece of candy. The Citrus Bowl, the Orange Bowl. The Peach Bowl reminds me of something else. Okay, so what is it, Andrew?
It's the Citrus Bowl.
Is that what you said?
Yep.
Okay. Despite usually being played on New Year's Day and featuring powerhouse teams from the SEC and Big Ten, currently the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl is not a New York Six bowl game. The New York Six games, Rose, Sugar, Orange, Cotton, Peach, and Fiesta, established in 2014 to host the playoffs, semifinals, quarterfinals, and the Citrus Bowl, which is a hell of a bowl, is often called the best of the rest. That's Texas and Michigan this year, I believe, because it typically gets the first pick of the teams not selected. Texas and Michigan. If you are a bowl game and you're not going to be a part of the playoff, those two alphas, even with Michigan's drama, will be a very highly ranked television viewership game. All right, the other one. Because of the tradition started in 1893, the Rose Bowl game and parade will never be held on which day of the week?
I mean, it's got to be Sunday, right?
Well, it's always going to be on the first. So does January 1st never happen on Sunday?
I just don't see, I can never in my lifetime remember a college football game being played on a Sunday. You're naturally going to go up against the NFL, which you're already struggling to do now.
Let me see if I got an answer.
I just don't think, I think it has to be Sunday.
Yeah, I don't remember. I'm trying to think if I remember games that were championship caliber games being played. All right, you're going to do with, you say Sunday.
I think it's Sunday.
All right, Sunday. There you go. Never on Sunday rule was established in 1893 to prevent horses hitched outside churches from being spooked by the parade's festivities, even though the primary mode of transportation has changed so much from horses to horsepower. The tradition has stuck. If New Year's Day falls on a Sunday, the Rose Parade and the game are both pushed to Monday, January 2nd. That makes sense. There's an old picture, black and white. And, of course, first time I ever went to the Rose Bowl was the Cowboys and Bills Super Bowl 27 in L.A. when the Cowboys won their first of, 3 out of 4 when they hammered Buffalo 52-27. All right, now the quizzes. Who wins the Cotton Bowl? This is a just pure, who do you think wins? Buckeyes 65-35%. And that's probably about what it is with the 10.5-point spread, that maybe it changes a half point or two over the next couple of days.
Yeah, I agree with this one. I think Ohio State's the better team. And honestly, I just don't see Miami being able to compete athlete for athlete with them.
I don't know. I don't have the scores in front of me, but Ohio State, saying at quarterback, obviously gets a little bit of a break after the loss to Indiana. I think they win. Neither one. This could be 17-13.
It could be. I also think like Miami playing A&M last week, or, I know you have some time in between that, but I think that plays into this as well.
Remember last year, all 4 quarterfinal round teams that had a bye, they got beat. Even when you're like, there's no way. Yep, they lost. Okay, last one. Who wins the Rose Bowl? Oh my, this is surprising. I don't know how much of this is who people want to win, or they respect Indiana that much, which they have earned after beating Ohio State 70. Like, it's basically 7-3, 72% to 28%, and a big chunk of votes, even more than we got for the Ohio State-Michigan game. So there we are with that.
Bama's getting healthy at the right time, Smokey. I think they're scary right now.
I saw the overreaction to when BYU was down 21-10. We do that. We started doing that last year in the first round of the playoff. Is like, can we just let a game get to halftime before you can start to get panicky? And then even then, things change. And so I thought Alabama, from the time they were down 17-0, of course, the pick six was massive. That tied the game. But it looked like the defense was making a lot of plays. Now, whether or not they'll get a chance to do that against Indiana with that offensive line that's so good remains to be seen. Let's see. Nice. Bracket Cat, you're a naughty man. Going back to the peach emoji, nice booty on the Peach Bowl. I don't think that's what I was talking about. All right, now, tomorrow we will have, I believe, Shahan Jayaraja, Sean Bell, who's been promoted to the assistant head coach at Houston, looking back at the year they had at 10-3. We'll have Scott Drew for a little bit to discuss the Big 12, and we'll have some other Big 12 coaches that we are trying to line up to have occasionally because it's just an unbelievable conference with how deep it is. And John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, and Craig back with Off the Radar tomorrow as well. When we come back, it'll be tomorrow at 3. Garrett Ross, thank you. Also, Andrew Valade, thank you. I'm David Smoak for our sponsors. We're not done for the year. Back tomorrow. This is 365 Sports.